Hey guys, welcome to another Artist Spotlight interview. Today's artist is Alex Senechal. Welcome, Alex.
Oh,
How's it going?
it's going well.
Going well? Yeah.
So, should I just
Do
talk about my work a little bit and what's going on?
yeah. I mean, you can pretty much just like rub it in and tell everyone.
All right. So, yeah, people watching this, you obviously know probably who me and Mike are. Yeah, I'm Alex. I do hard surface stuff.
Mm,
If you don't know, and I, I just make hard surface stuff.
yeah.
Nothing more than that. Usually sci-fi. I've worked on Halo. I've worked on a number of games as a freelancer. I kind of enjoy just making random cool shapes and talking about design and all that stuff. And I've been doing it for who knows how long, like 8 years or something
Mm.
ridiculous. So,
When did you first pick up Fusion?
man, I picked Fusion. My friend Alex Kaliman, he was using Fusion like, I don't know, 2016, 2017, and then he convinced me to use it, and I picked it up and it never went back. So
You learn it pretty quickly, right? I've been
yeah,
learning
dude,
little bits.
you can learn it in like I think a week,
Mm,
and then like if you do like 3 or 4 projects in it, like week project, you're good to go. And I
mm.
mean, it's probably the easiest program for me. Like I tried to learn Moe for like a fucking year, and I
Oh
could
yeah.
never design something I was happy with. Like literally did not click. I knew hotkeys. I had custom setups, kit bash library, whatever. I
Yeah.
fucking hate this program. It's so
Really?
inflexible. Yeah, I hate this fucking program. It's a good program for some things, like for sure. And I know that there's people like Vitaly and Edon and my friend Josh Cotter or
Yeah.
whatever. Like they can do great stuff in Moe. Not for me. Like in Fusion, you can rotate faces, you can do all sorts of crazy
Yeah.
stuff. Like it feels closer to poly modeling
Mm.
than Moe could ever in a million years.
I
Plus, Moe
think,
has a shit fillet system, so
yeah, I think I've learned, well, I've learned Moe, and then I'm like, I'm not satisfied. I'm like, but I've learned Moe to the point where I've become efficient with it. So I'm like, now, okay, I want to learn Fusion because I see the benefit of it. But going from Moe to Fusion is so much slower. Like, because it's the hotkeys and you can see why it's fast, but you don't, like you were saying, you don't get all the cool detailing. So it's like, well, all right, if you were to like, so if you were to model something in Moe and you were good at it, right, you'd probably save, let's say you spent a day on something, you might save like 30 minutes in the whole day, maybe using Moe, you think, being efficient.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that Moe, the only thing I like about Moe is that it has the ability to quickly kit bash stuff,
Mm,
like details and whatever. But there's a lot of stuff you just simply can't do. Like if you want to rotate faces and do some crazy stuff like that, and then you have some kind of like cutout like this, and you want to just bevel it. Like I know
mm,
you can do this type of a thing in Moe, but you can't do it that easily.
no.
Or just like move a face off. Oh, it's deleted. Like you
Yeah.
can't do this in Moe.
I guess
Like
you
it's just not.
I guess you can't, it's like, what's the saying, apples and oranges or whatever it is, you can't really compare. Like they're two different things,
Yeah.
so I guess it's not two different things because they're both CAD. So I guess it's
Yeah.
that weird comparison. So, but
Yeah. It just
yeah.
depends what you like.
Mm. Are you kit bashing much? How do you go about kit bashing in Fusion?
Well, so in Fusion, I can try and load something up. Let me take this off screen. Um,
By the way, how long are you spending on like making it your average gun? Like maybe something like that, but how long do you end up
uh,
spending on something like that? Like a
it
gun?
really depends. Like I can do a gun in a day if I
Mm,
want. Like that's not a problem. But like let's say I I don't know, like for example, these are all poly modeled. Like this is my second gun, and this took me I think like 10 days. That's
yep.
old,
I think the
very old.
screen. Hold on one sec. screen might be
Oh,
lag.
okay. Sorry, I'll slow down a bit.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a quick clicker, so.
This is, 'cause I think what happens is sometimes it gets slow feed. All right, so I'm
Ah,
looking at the
okay.
gun. Okay, so it's the projectile rifle design.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
10 days, but then this one was like 6 hours. So
So the projectile rifle one, that is polymodeling, you said?
yeah, that was all 3ds Max,
Yeah.
and
How
this is
come
Fusion. This. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which one's which because of the screen lag.
Oh, my bad.
So the what is it? The projectile rifle design is, and the second one is fusion. Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
projectile rifle is polymodeling, and then the PDW is Fusion, and that was like my third or fourth thing in Fusion. So
Have you stepped away from polymodeling for guns?
yeah, pretty much entirely. Like I don't remember the last thing I polymodeled. Like probably this character.
Mm,
The head is like this is like 90% polymodeling, I would say,
mm.
with a few kit bash parts. But that was like the last time I did any.
And
Yeah, you can see it.
are you working with Maya for these?
No, it's just all 3ds Max for
Yeah.
now. But I want to be a Blender boy soon, so
Oh, really?
yeah.
Are you learning like box cutter and things like that?
No, to be honest, I haven't done any like real modeling in Blender. I'm
Mm.
doing it mostly in I'm just using Blender right now mostly for rendering because I've been
Oh,
on
okay.
like a year and a half search for the perfect render pipeline and
Ah.
hoping that's in Blender. But
So how come you don't use Octane to render?
okay, I've used everything. I used Octane. I have Octane standalone. I use that. I like it. I don't like certain things about the workflow. I hate that you can't switch cameras like you can in Keyshot. Like you know Keyshot too, right?
Mm.
I
Yeah.
you used to do a lot of stuff in Keyshot, and
Mm.
like Keyshot, you can like have such a quick workflow to just get something done. Like set up my cameras, set up my materials, set up my lighting, done. You
Mm.
make it look okay. But the thing is, Keyshot doesn't look great. Octane, I don't like the workflow for like if you have an object, right, and you want to change the material on one part in standalone, you have to like expose all of the objects and then
Mm.
assign the material to the right node. And I cannot live with this. Like
Mm.
it's too much for me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I used Octane in Max. I used Redshift in Max. I used Redshift in Maya. I used Blender Cycles. I used Blender Octane. I don't even fucking know. I've used every render engine trying
Yeah.
to find the perfect one. So I'm hoping Blender is going to be
So
that one. So
with Blender, you're going to use the Blender cycles, I assume. The
yeah, right
Yeah.
now that's what I'm trying to get going. But the reason for Blender is that you can set up like this workflow that's like Keyshot. So here I have like my main render window, and then I have my cameras, all of this stuff. I can edit materials here. I have my shader graph, and then this can turn into like for I can use this for like moving lights. So if like I have a scene going in here and like I want to keep the camera fixed, I can go in here, change the lighting,
Mm.
do some changes. So it's just like the best workflow I've seen next to Keyshot. And then also you can like link and append things. So like I'm building this huge material library. I'm building a huge kit bash library and material library right now. But so
Mm.
I can just go into here and be like, okay, I want my metal base materials. And then I just go to material, select these, oops, wrong button. And then I just append them. And now I have them all in my scene. I can do this when it comes to assets. I can do it with everything.
Yeah.
And it's fucking awesome.
That's
So
cool. How are you doing the kit bashing in here?
so here, I'll load up one of my sets. So basically what I do is actually I wanted to talk about it. I haven't talked about it really with anybody. I'm curious about other people too, yourself included, like
Mm.
how you manage your concept like toolkit. I don't know if that makes sense, but like for me, I had one and it was like always like I have my texture files and then I've got like my patterns and then I've got like, lens flares, like all of this stuff, smoke, whatever.
Mm.
But lately I've been going way hard. So I've got like huge HDRI collection, IES profiles, all my material libraries set up in Blender, and then photo bashing folders. I've got render setups for like client defaults. I've got height maps for terrain. I've got decal libraries and then I'm building like a VDB collection for like volumes and
Mm.
smoke and clouds. And then I got images of them, and then I got assets. And so here's the thing about
Mm.
assets is like, I can just go into here if I want to load up my, my kit bash dogs. Like I literally, I
What?
have dogs,
What is
so I
up?
can load up. Dude, I have everything. I'm making the
Dude, you're
biggest kit.
very, I thought you're very thorough. Like, I'm just looking at all your stuff. I'm like, man, there's a lot of shit that I would never use.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of preparing for eventualities,
Yeah.
trying to balance that with like what I might actually need. But yeah, so then I got like some sci-fi crates that are
So you're
taking a
thinking of
little while
doing
to load.
scene work, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I actually was an environment artist for like 4 years, and so
Makes
I mean,
sense. That makes sense now. Totally makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense.
kind of like my background. But yeah, just this
Yeah.
whole thing in Blender, the fact that I can non-destructively have a kit bash library that I can load in pre-textured assets. Like I feel like I've been wasting so many years of my life just not having this stuff. And it makes your work quality go down when you
Mm.
don't have like nice decals.
Mm.
It adds like 5-10%. And if you have bad decals, you always use the same ones. Like you could take 3 days to go make a decal library,
Mm.
and 10% better. It's like this having a big library like multiplies how fast you can be, how
Yeah.
much money
Do
you
you,
can
do you
make.
sit down and just make decals at times?
I only did it like 1 or 2 times, but I made
Yeah.
like, a lot. But I want to do it again.
I always
Yeah,
wonder,
like,
like, where are
mhm.
people making these? Like, is Photoshop? I always feel like Photoshop's not the most efficient thing to make decals.
Yeah, it's not. I sat down and taught myself Illustrator.
Mm.
It's actually the easiest program. If you know Photoshop, you can learn it in like, I don't know, a day, day and a half with some
Yeah.
simple tutorials. So it's way fucking better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was doing it in Photoshop for years.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was like, what am I doing it in here for? It's just
And
it offers it. Yeah.
you can also export it super high res. So like you can export like every decal
Mm.
at like 5K or whatever you want, so 4K.
I always write funny things on my decals as well. Like, no one's ever gonna read it. It's like,
And what's your best line? I mean, if you have it in memory.
I think Mike Nash fucking built this. Like, it's like, or just like being really rude in in the decal.
Yeah, I'm not a very serious person, so it's kind of hard for me to resist the urge to say some dumb bullshit. So it's got to be trolling or something.
And I guess, yeah, it's the because well, let's be honest, like it's probably the most. It can be the most boring task to make a decal at times because it's like, but then sometimes you get really into it. It depends what I think the frame of mind that you're in to sit down and do those things. But like with the kit bashing in Blender, are you using a similar like because you went to like link? Are you saving like? Is it possible to get like you link the scene like literally, or you bring in? Oh, you can kit bash with like Mesh Machine and things like that, can't you?
Yeah, to
Are
be
you
honest, I don't know the modeling. Like I can model in Blender. I actually learned Blender like a few years ago, but I never could get deep into it, like comfortable like in Max. So
mm,
I don't know any of those plugins yet. Like I don't know Mesh Machine, I don't know Decal Machine, I don't know any of these like things. I just know like basic modeling, and I'm like okay at it. But
yeah.
like with this linking thing, like so like let's say yeah, like I made some let's see. I mean, I don't know about you. I feel like for a lot of the years of my career, I've been doing stuff wrong, and I could never figure out why. Like, actually, I'm curious. Do you have like a material library that always like looks good? Like in Keyshot, I always struggled to make one material work for all of my scenes. Like,
No, it never works in that way.
right?
I just use the default ones and then tweak it and do a lot of post effects on top. It's not the best thing, but in Max I would have my own ones that I would use for metal all the time. But I tended to get lazy with doing. I got to the thing where like I hated rendering after a while. I just hated rendering, and so I think I'm just going to do it in Keyshot for a while because with Keyshot I found if you do enough post effects on top, you can make those things look better. And I guess if we're doing just concept work, it kind of like it doesn't matter too much. It's when
Yeah.
I think when you're delivering final renders where because it's going to be put into another pipeline anyway, and so like that's why I'm like I'm just going to render it. If it looks like metal, it looks like metal, and but I do like the Octane workflow, but it doesn't support skin, so I'm in that weird area of at the moment Keyshot supports skin and metal and things like that, but like if you want to
Really,
render
Octane doesn't support skin.
not a good skin. It looks terrible.
No, really.
Not terrible, but it doesn't look great. And so that's why like that one's rendered in Keyshot. And to me, that looks good enough. Like for,
This one?
yeah, that's Keyshot.
Dude, I thought, okay, why did I think this was in Keyshot? I was actually having a discussion with my friends about this. I'm like, yeah, this is Keyshot, but I couldn't figure out why I knew that. And yeah, I actually, man, to be honest, I don't like, I don't like, saying like fanboy stuff, but like this thing has been one of my benchmarks for like realistic renders. And
Oh, really?
I'm curious. Yeah, dude. And then your old one, like literally before I even did 3D or knew about it, like this was my origin, origin game thing, my icon. Like
Yeah.
this thing is insane. Like this is V-Ray, right?
Yeah, that's V-Ray. That one took me a long time to nail down. I made a lot of textures and I knew nothing about texturing when I did do that. And it took me like almost 15 hours to 20 hours to render one frame. So that was painful. It was that project probably burnt me out the most to do that thing because I kind of like set out, well, I never knew what I was gonna make. That's the best projects. You sit down and I think every artist should make a masterpiece or masterpieces in their kind of life. And like I've got a few more in me, but I'm completely overhauling my workflow. And this is why I'm talking to people like you and all these other artists, and I'm getting into like that nitty gritty again, and getting my hands dirty, and like where like because you know how you have that like burning intensity inside of you, you need to make something really good. I'm building that back up. So because I took a break for a while, right? So I'm like, well, I got to get back to it, and this is like I want to get back to making awesome shit like this, but I have to make it within very smart framework of doing it.
Yeah.
And like to do stuff like this, it's more about like that's this like you wouldn't want to see the render like that has no textures on it. That has no textures. There's all hand painted textures on top, right?
This is Photoshop.
The police one. I don't know. The screen's
oh, this one.
The police one, but the infiltration bust is V-Ray with textures. So, but yeah, that's all hand painted. Like, I think what's happened is so with the infiltration bust, right? This is why. The reason why you don't see this being made is because it's fucking hard to. You're not going to get that type of surfacing with Moi, and the police vest one. You won't get that type of surfacing with Moi or CAD modeling. Like, so what I'm working on now is mixing subdivision modeling with CAD, but going towards subdivision, then CAD, and then working from there. Because I think what at the moment we've like gravitated towards this like real CAD-y workflow, and I think you can't get those. You've done plenty of subdivision modeling. You can't get these really organic shapes that I think our industry, we cater towards doing those types of things, and like that's where I want to like bring that workflow in place where I can do those types of things. But like those renders, you could like with your renders, you could probably definitely pull out more visual realism just by post-processing effects or doing some post work. I think people don't like look at their renders and tune it and add all like little subtle touches to it. the devil's in the details as well. So um, doing certain color correction and correcting it and go, okay, how do I feel about that color correction? Do I feel good about it? Like that's what I do. Like I'm like does it feel right? I don't know. Like that's generally how I color correct things and go off it. And um, you just gotta. I guess it's also another thing is like relatability, right? If you want to pull realism from a picture, and I guess with if you're doing guns, how do you pull the relatability from a weapon? You have to figure that
Yeah.
out, right? And I
I
mean,
just think it's crazy looking back at this thing though, because I mean the materials still hold up very well. Like the infiltrator bust, like
yeah,
today,
it's
and
timeless.
this is like 2010.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I agree with you. Like everybody should make like a masterpiece. I mean,
I could do it again. I mean, it's just like what's the point though? Like, what would I make? And so
yeah,
that's like, I mean, I am like at the moment I'm figuring out what the hell. Like I'm making a bunch of like stuff, and I don't know where I want to take things. I think I actually do want to open up a studio and get like really skilled people together and
yeah,
working on things. So I'm trying to suss out how to like go about doing that, because forming a studio would be pretty fun because that energy that you get to exchange with everyone else and the learning and things like that. That's really what I want to do. As freelancers, right, we just sit at home and it's like almost like a semi self-involved thing that we do. And that's why I had a good chat with Vitaly about like how he formed his company and made his game and things like that.
mm,
That was really inspirational to me. I was like, man, like I want to do something along those lines. Don't know if I want to make a game, but I was I was thinking of forming a sort of team, bringing a team together, and then maybe you can make a game if you can see that you can all
yeah,
work together. Because it's like if you if you dive in, it's like diving in head first, right? And like everyone has different emotions and feelings and all that stuff, and it's like like how do you get along and how do you how do you work together? And that's like if you form a company, that I think that's the best thing to do, really,
yep.
like see from there. Mm.
I think also, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's not like anywhere near passive income, but I want to take my career in a similar direction too. I don't like I have Gumroad and all this stuff, but I don't like that. I don't like working for a thing where time is proportional to the amount of money you make. And
Yeah.
I also feel like, like I want to do something that means something to somebody, which is purely egotistical. I mean, I think to a degree, but like when I was a kid, I really liked Halo,
Mm.
and and then I worked on it. And you should never see how sausages are made, but let's say that. And yeah, but I mean, I feel like that's kind of like the next step too. And also, to be honest, business is slightly enjoyable. It's like marketing yourself as an artist, right? It's about more than just like making art. It's about how do you market that art. It's also about people, like how do you lead a group of people and like all of these things. So I mean, yeah, I know what you mean.
Mm.
Like I have similar desires.
Yeah. All right. We'll get back to talking about you and your stuff, but I
Yeah.
mean, gotta remember this interview with you, and I mean, we could always talk about other stuff after this and see where you're at. But if you want to show like so, I guess with because you're working on a new workflow, I guess you're trying to get that ultimate workflow of a client will ask you, hey, can you do this? And then you can like whip it out, and just in case you do it and you can get it done. Like, are you getting, so what is the bulk of your work these days? Like, is it just like guns, or like have you been like, because you've done so many guns, is it like, hey, can you do a gun for us? Is it like that these days, or are you getting diversification?
It's not as diverse as I'd like. I mean, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I think I fill a pretty small niche as far
Mm.
as sci-fi guns. And yeah, so I mean, I can't say exactly the things I've done. Some of the stuff you can see now. I did two weapons. One of them is the main weapon for a VR game recently, sci-fi one, which has been announced, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say I worked on it, which is super lame.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what I can say, but I've made some like main character weapons for some big games lately. And then yeah, I'm also doing like, you know, props and character devices, like, you know, things that they use for their abilities and whatever. But not as diverse as I'd like. I did some environment concept as well in Blender, like
Mm.
rendering. But yeah, like really want to branch out. I never saw myself as just like somebody who likes doing one thing. I mean, I even have like an Instagram where I make glitch art
You make
sometimes
what?
as a
Glitch?
glitch art, like, you know, like data bending and like just like kind
Data,
of
data
dumb shit.
bending? What is data
Yeah, yeah,
bending?
yeah. I glitch art.
Glitch.
I won't show my account because it's a secret, but I'll show like I actually posted a few of them on here. Now people are gonna go searching through my Instagram if they watch this. I'm sure one person will. But yeah, so this is like glitch art, except a lot of this is just kind of like generic glitch art, but you can do some like really cool stuff out of like almost nothing and learn to find beauty in it. And it's actually one of the things
Yeah.
that I think helped me a lot with composition, like learning to see the composition in a abstraction,
Mm.
learning to see like the beauty in nothing. Like that's actually kind of how I got into design. Like I was designing like, yes, this is just some glitch art I had made, and it's just from a picture of my croc gun, like
Mm.
this old fucker right here.
Mm.
And yeah, this is all poly modeled. But
The screen's lagging, so it's catching up.
oh yeah, my bad. I'll slow it down. I'm a bit too fast at clicking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think one of the things that has been really helpful for me, and as far as getting better at design and art and understanding shapes, I'm always saying this, is that, you know, there's like few types of things in design that are important, but two big ones are function and form.
Mm.
And like if you're trying to learn form, like how to make pleasing shapes at the same time as doing functional stuff, like you're going to struggle because you're always compromising for one or the other. And
Yeah.
like for me on Halo, like I made a bunch of just random shapes for the sake of looking cool. And so like everything I did for Halo, I designed myself, and like was a part of, like I did like the whole thing from block out to you know final design. And I think the biggest thing is like I just lost what I wanted to say. Yeah, the basically all I had to do was focus on like what makes a shape pleasing, you know. That was it.
Mm. Yeah.
And then also pushing the ability to visualize these forms and shapes, because like that's I think the biggest thing that separates good designers and good artists from bad ones is, I mean, it's not talking just about what they do with their art, like what they do with this knowledge, but understanding form. Like there's a lot of artists who understand form who make very generic stuff that's not interesting. But I think when you understand the forms that you're designing and you understand like form itself, it makes you a good modeler, right? Like
Mm.
uh, there's so many artists who can't model, but the problem isn't necessarily that they can't model, it's they don't understand what they're modeling, volume and
Yeah.
wise, and like how the forms are. And
And
actually,
yeah,
yeah.
and it is that function follows form. Like when you try and when you try well you like do you have that the thing I have the 50-50 rule. It's 50% bullshit but 50% real. Like that for me I can do the bullshit part. It's like the fun aspect of it, and then the other 50 is like, hey, we got to try and tie it into a set of rules that relatability so I can relate to it. So I look at it, I can connect to it visually, and I can take something from it. That's generally how I try and think about when I do design. So you get something from it without you actually going, okay, like if you can sit there and go, oh, I think this does this and this does that, I've kind of won you over, and I've kind of like,
Yeah.
I like to hold the hand of the viewer. Essentially, this is what I like to do, is try and hold your hand. And I think that's like something that people don't do is like they just make a bunch of stuff, and there's like no hand holding in that process of, because you're an artist, you're making something, right? And you need to be able to show, okay, what is, maybe what does this thing do? Can it, like, I can kind of maybe imagine what that does, because I've held
Yeah.
your hand for you. So it's like when you present something to somebody and they're like, I have no idea what this is, then you alienate the person, and there's no relatability. That's how I think about doing that stuff. And
Yeah, I
you do that.
think the first thing is like, I think if you want to be better at shapes, you should focus on just shapes. Like do studies where it's just shape,
Mm,
no function. And then if you want to get better at function, do studies where it's just function. At least this is what worked for me. So like
mm,
I only did shapes for like 3 or 4 years. And then I had to like, I've been trying to get that function integrated like slowly. So I mean, I try to do the same. Like I try to sell somebody on my idea. Like it's plausible, and I used to take apart a lot of electronics and shit as a kid. So I have like a kind of immature base of reference for how things work.
yeah.
But I've had to work very hard on it over the last few years, especially like if you look at a design like say this one, and this one's supposed to be super sci-fi, but it's not an excuse for like the tech stuff being not as good, like shitty screws or some shitty fucking details on it, like some
Mm,
generic details where like this one, like I learned a lot of small things. And I think what's interesting, kind of like what you're talking about giving that belief to people, it's like, and we were talking earlier also about like life, integrating these things like learning to be happy, all of these things into your subconscious. And like
mm,
for me it's the same thing with like design. So for example, the biggest problem I noticed with my art was I was making all of my edges too large for the scale that they were at, and so everything looked fake as fuck and I hated it and I couldn't figure out why. And then
mm,
things like variety of details, like you know there's so many things I still need to improve, but like I feel like slowly I'm figuring out like how to make pleasing mechanical stuff.
mm,
Like I look at, actually one thing, I don't like to talk about myself too much, but I guess that's why I'm here. I make these things where I just describe the things that I've realized. Like for example, okay, if I have a mech leg and
mm,
depending on the joint placement, I can do crazy stuff with the shapes. Or like, oh, I wouldn't typically have this many like cutouts on a piece of metal this big. If I did it, it would be maybe 2 or 3, not 10. And then
yeah.
also having depth inside of that cut. Or like I love here where he just breaks up the material and uses this subtle patterning. Or like,
Mm,
um, you know, thinking a bit more about like how heavy pieces are manufactured and how awkward those shapes are, and how balancing those awkward shapes with dynamic shapes you can find a balance. Because like it's really easy to fall into a pit of only making cool shapes too, and then it
yeah.
feels like dumb in the opposite direction.
Yeah. So you're breaking down. Are you breaking down what's the process here? You're making like a understanding cheat sheet in a way.
Well, like for example, I'll zoom away from this because I probably shouldn't show it, but like I realized a few different things recently. So like one of them is I can design an entire like design just by laying down a few lines and looking at the proportions, or like noticing things like this, like, oh, this circle from the trigger, continues along this shape, and then this flows through here to here. Like that's
Mm,
really nice stuff, like line continuity. So yeah, I mean, like just breaking down things I didn't notice. Like one thing I love on this thing that you did, is that you have like one, okay, I have to say it, I don't like being like one of these fanboys or whatever, but I have to say, like, I'm looking at people's work that I like, right,
mm,
and breaking it down. So one thing that I think that you really excel at, and one thing that is also another artist is really good at this, and he is uh fuck Kevin. No, you know the guy who made all the Doom 3 models,
Kevin.
Kevin Scott, right?
Yeah,
I feel like that.
I've actually had a chat with him about stuff. I've always admired his stuff. Like he did a fucking awesome job with directing Doom. Like if you look him up, he hasn't got any Doom stuff up. Like he's kind of, it's like a, maybe I think he went a bit, maybe I don't know. I think he left after Doom. Maybe it didn't go too well.
No,
Maybe
so he went to yeah, I mean, you probably know he was the art director at 343. So I never got to work with him, but
yeah.
I always looked at his forms, and I wish Doom 3 sculpt. I just one of the things that I really appreciate about you and him is that you both have a very, very good hierarchy to your forms.
Mm,
Like, and he was actually the first time I really realized that. Also, a few of the other guys who sculpted on Doom, like I can't remember his name, but one of the new Doom guys. And like I love your old anatomy stuff. Like I remember looking at your foot sculpt on Facebook and stuff, but your forms always have such a strong large volume. Like you have
mm.
very nice form control, and it's some of the best from somebody who also designed sci-fi I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually something really interesting. And so one of the things I really liked about this though is that there's still such a good control over the large shape. The large volume is very, very controlled. Like it's very simple, right? When you break it down, but then you're cutting all of your shapes out of it, but still also having a little bit of medium form
Mm.
in the design, but not enough that it takes away from the large form. Like it still has really great hierarchy. And I think that's one of the things that I notice about all of your work. And I also noticed, I mean, I don't know how much of the stuff you notice yourself, but from looking on the outside, I think you're very inspired by legs or maybe
Legs.
dicks. I don't know. Because they have like this big volume and then they have lots of veins along them. And there's always like a very strong like volume to it.
Are you saying
You
leg?
know?
Like
Yeah.
I do like legs a lot on the female model. So on the female anatomy, that's probably like my my thing is like I'm a leg man. If you were to kind of really
Ah,
say
I
anything,
see. I see.
yeah. So it's probably my sexuality coming out in my artwork. So
But I mean,
I yeah.
even even look at these. I like these volumes that you have are very like all of these have very large, big shapes, and then all
Mm.
of the small changes are following it. So you're very good at controlling volumes, and that's something that I always appreciate a lot in artists when they're able to have such nice hierarchy of form.
Yeah,
And
so I always plan primary and then secondary and tertiary. Like I I haven't really I until I started teaching, I actually never knew I did it anyway. Like you even saying it now opens up me to that even more. And so what I try and do is, because you know you need space, but you need localization also, right? You know what I mean? You need
yeah,
space and localization. Like you need to be, and then you tighten up a bit. Like that's kind of like how I feel, because you scan over things and your eye needs to dance and then relax, like in that weird way. It's like a rhythm that, like, you can't make a person, you can't put too much detail into something because you make a person tired. So like I always will zoom out and look at something from a distance and then zoom in, and then I'm constantly doing that until I start detailing. And even then, like at the detailing stage, detailing is an addiction, right?
yeah, for real.
Okay, so I think you've fallen guilty to detailing. You've got a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of detail with your stuff, and so like it's like I don't know if you ever had like a pimple in your face and you pick it and you pick it and you pick it, and like the more you pick at that pimple, the worse it will kind of get. Like detailing can be
yeah,
a little bit like that, and I've learned I've had to learn that and always kind of like hit myself. No, like you got to tell yourself no, because the whole thing that you know, that mantra, less is more, less is more. I
yeah,
say that. I say it constantly, and I say it more than ever now. And what I do is like I try and practice and go, okay, um, what can I get away with? Because I've been looking at Vitaly's stuff and I've been studying him for certain simple things. Like if you look at Vitaly, like he's been executing some things in simple forms and getting away with. This is why I think he just does Moi, because he simply he knows that point of capping out with detail, and he can like he's like, I'm satisfied with how much detail this has got, and he will just kind of leave it. I guess with Fusion, you can just keep detailing and detailing. With Moi,
Yeah.
is a weird thing. It forces you to think differently, and it forces you can't undo anything. Do you get it?
Yeah,
Essentially.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you only move forward in Moi. It forces a good a good behavior. So this is why I kind of enjoyed with that process of learning Moi, because it hits you. It's like, hey, you better do this right, otherwise you're never going to get it right, right? So with you,
Yeah.
you sat down and you couldn't get your head around Moi, because I think you're living in that thing of, I love to change things and I love to add things, right? So
Well,
kind of.
I think for me, okay, I agree with you. I think
Mm.
when you have choices that you can't undo, it's really great. Like that's actually why I like to draw with pen a lot, because it's the most painful way to draw.
Yeah.
But for when I'm doing like designs, like you know, even if I can just do something that maybe I would be happy enough with, I feel like I can go very, very fast when I'm like modeling. Like I can make changes very quickly. But for me, I feel like I'm like the type of person who has to like chisel something out of stone, if that makes
Mm.
sense. And like, so I kind of like get to it. Because for example, I think every part of a design has a relationship. So like if you make a, you know, it depends on the philosophy of what you're making. Like if you're making something super, super realistic, then, you know, maybe you're not going to be trying to do this as much. Like you're going to manufacture like, oh, this part of the gun is made differently than this one. Like they don't have to mesh well. If
Mm.
you're doing some like realistic stuff, whatever. But if you want to make something that's like really cool, at least for me, like, you know, I feel like the whole gun is like a it's like every part has a relationship, you know, like the barrel has a relationship to the part behind it. And I have to build that relationship between all of the pieces for it to be a cohesive design.
Mm.
And I think it's the same thing with sculpting, right? Like you have this ability to find something, but it's also easy to go too far. But with Moe, I felt like, you know, I will never be able to probably design as well in pen as I do with a pencil or with a computer, even if I am forced to make those choices. When I have a chance to like second guess that choice, I think it's helpful. But what you're saying about, you know, pure design, like less is definitely more. And I think it's the hardest thing. When you have to make something look cool with nothing, it's like, you know, that's a true ability to design. I
Mm.
really appreciate like car designers and all of them so much, because they can just take simple forms and twist them in ways that you would never do typically in a polymodeling program or just in your mind. You know, it's like a true mastery over form. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
hardcore. It is hardcore. I mean, that's
fucking
something that,
awesome.
yeah, it is. I mean, some of the car designs is nuts, and they're doing it in with NURBS and things like that. So, I mean, they use some clay. They're doing stuff in that traditional clay. You know, they still sculpt cars in clay, and this is why I like using Dynamesh. But I mean, I that's why I've been experimenting with, been trying Dynamesh to, like, I'm trying this current workflow where so I tried it today. I'm making like a cockpit design. And I said, well, I'll do it in sub D to a certain point and then move it into ZBrush and then move it back into sub D. And then I'll take the sub D stuff and move it into CAD. It's a weird workflow, but it's kind of like it offers that freedom of, you know, like how you saying you're never going to design as well as you designed with the pen. So like I'm trying to like interchangeable workflows where I'm kind of taking a bit here and there. And that's why I see why Vitaly still uses the sub D stuff, because I think people have like, to be honest, people like have abandoned subdivision modeling. And I think it's at a disadvantage because subdivision modeling offers something that CAD doesn't. And things like, you know, you can't just make everything in CAD. I'm not sure if are you mixing your workflows with subdivision and putting it into CAD?
So I mean, to be honest, so like if I'm doing something like like a character or whatever, um, like this is all sub D and then ZBrush and like maybe a few CAD details.
Mm.
Um, Not that I am a huge fan of this design, but yeah, so I mean,
No, that's
yeah, I'm
cool. I
mixing
mean,
them,
like,
but typically, yeah. Hmm?
does that the subdivision workflow always takes so long, right? So
And
it's
that's
slower.
I really want to revisit my workflow. I have a workflow that works for me. It's basically just planar modeling. Like I just model with planes, and I want to move into something that's a bit more current gen. Like I still love poly modeling for like organic shapes. Like it's very nice balance between
Mm.
organic and hard surface. And the I want to be able to get that with Fusion. I think it's possible, but I haven't like gotten to a point where I can make it a workflow yet.
I know how to
So
make it. I know how to make it a workflow.
I
So
think what you're saying with yeah, go for it.
so the problem with like it's a funny workflow that I found. You have to, so say if you did some poly modeling and you want to take it into CAD, what you have to do is you export it to MOI, and then you export from MOI to Fusion, because it turns, how MOI turns things into NURB surfaces.
Yeah,
The converter in MOI is better than the one in Fusion. The one in Fusion doesn't do a good job. And so, like, I found this workflow where you take it into MOI, convert it in MOI, and then take it into Fusion, and then you can detail it really easily. Because
yeah,
bringing stuff from poly modeling, you got like thickness issues and all the conflicting faces and edges, which makes it a nightmare when you import into Fusion. Because I haven't worked too much in Fusion, and that's what I found. I think you'd probably really like to do that. I reckon you would. I would show after the chat. I'll show you some things that I've tried with some friends, and I think you'd be like, that's you might kind of like, hey, that's pretty cool, and you
yeah.
might
Sure,
want
I'd
to
like
try
to
it. Yeah.
see.
Mm.
I did it once, but I didn't like make a workflow out of it. I just brought it from OE and it worked fine. But like I need to sit down and get to a point because the thing with 3D is, as you probably know, is like it's always about those actions that you do very easily, and that
Mm.
becomes kind of like your style, right? Like, oh, I know I can get this detail done in like 5 minutes because this is the way to do it.
Mm.
And so like I need to find get to a point with it and do it enough where it's like, okay, like I just do this and this and it's done. Like, I
Mm.
don't have to like struggle over it. That's why so many people model really lame or poly models, because they're just like, oh, it's so easy to inset the face and then to extrude it downwards and then add a bevel, like, so
Mm. Yeah.
need to get to that point with this organic fusion stuff. I also though want to try just using fusion for it. I'm very curious. I think it might be possible. Like I was looking at like Sparth ships, and I was thinking like a lot of this stuff could be very easy if you change how you think about like modeling. Like for example, um, by the way, I don't want to jump around too much, but do
All
you
right.
know Paul Richards, the
Yeah. I
concept?
think he's doing the ships. Paul Richard.
Uh, Paul Richards art. He's a crazy Darksiders, Halo, whatever guy. He's like he's like my shape god. I
Shape
think
guy.
he's insane human being. But he has this one really great design talk he talks about, and I like how he broke down this idea of cross sections in design. So like, how do I find it? It's right here. It's right here. Talks a lot about breaking down shapes and stuff, and I'll send you this link if you've never seen it. I think it's one of my favorite things. But yeah, so he's talking about cross sections, and like if you think about stuff in cross sections like this, I think it makes a lot of organic shapes and also just modeling stuff very concrete. So I think if you were to think about stuff in Fusion, in this way too. I think there's the possibility to like take a ship like say, oh, like you know, a lot of these would actually like this would be really easy to do in Fusion, this bottom ship. If you just think about the profile and you loft it together,
Mm,
doing something like this would actually be insanely easy, I think,
mm.
you know? So
Do
I
you use
think
that? Do you use that workflow with lofting, or
it's on my to-do list.
you don't
I
loft
think
much?
I laugh sometimes, but it's not like my bread and butter, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's, it doing like, do you find are you drawing much for clients, or are you just straight up Fusion designing?
Yeah, so actually I draw a lot for clients, and basically what I do is I generally am just doing like side views, show them like here's the idea, here's how the thing works, you know, run them through the ideas so that way everybody's on the same page, you know. Like that's my goal is always like to, as you know, like to get the client to sign off as quick as possible on every step of the way so you never have to redo work
Mm.
or as little as possible, you know. So
Yeah.
I draw a lot before.
It's just it's a pretty quick concept that you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
nothing special. I actually have one example I can show. So like I made this for a client in like 3 days, I think, and I just started with this sketch right up here in the upper corner. So I just did like a quick drawing. I was like, hey, this is what I'll make. Is it cool? And they're like, yep. And so I made it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's typically how I'm starting off with a lot of this stuff.
Do you find I always thought I have like a theory that it's harder to copy something than so it's harder to copy something. If you just made it straight up, it's easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you
Mm.
100%.
Yeah, it's harder to
Like
copy. Yeah.
Like I can go and I can go model like some crazy gun or whatever with some forms that I made up.
Mm.
And then like you want me to go model a real gun? Actually, I could do that. But
Yeah.
it's like you're second guessing yourself. You have to like think about it and all of this stuff.
Well,
And
that's
for some reason,
yeah. Well, that's why I asked you, are you drawing these things? Because I find that if you drew those things for your clients, you're making your job harder. But it's like if you're really good at your job, I think the client will be like, yeah, it looks good enough. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think that like that, unless you get a really picky client, they want like a bunch of. I mean, how many times have you got your clients to say you could? So you know you did a block out for that one. Let's say for example, that gun there. If you go down the Garada, um, you did a like a 3D block out, right?
yeah.
All right, you could do that. And I think, would you say a client would be like, okay, that's good? I think they would. They would be.
Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, there's a few reasons I do both. So the first one is I actually kind of like drawing more, especially at the start, because it lets me figure out roughly where I want to go. And I don't like hold it to a finality, but the biggest thing I'm looking for is like the forms. I try to visualize all of the forms like most of the way there in my head.
Mm,
So that way there's no I can like unload myself of the task of the big picture and focus on executing and planning the things that I want to do in the design. Like for me, a really big thing I wanted to do was to have interesting forms on the front. So it's like flat. And then I wanted to transition and maintain this like dynamic shape I have in the middle, but still have the planes change in so many ways that,
mm,
but make them still work together. And
mm,
so that was like one of my big ones, also including a little bit more curved forms on the barrels. And so there's the other reason though too I like to draw is because I mean it's easier. Like I can whip out a drawing and you know depending on what it is like an hour or two,
mm,
sometimes three if it's like I need to make it really nice. And so like I can get that those ideas in front of the client much faster and get them what they want, you know? And I'll usually give them like, between 3 and 6 concepts when I start something, just so I can get a pulse of like what they want. But also the other thing is too, if you can draw for a client, right, and do 2D, then at the end they'll be like, oh, hey, can you do the 3D now? And you're like, sure, just pay me
Mm.
more, like,
Yeah.
so it's kind of helpful.
Yeah. So you're doing like 6 drawings in 3 hours, you're saying?
No. I mean, I can do 6 drawings and like it depends, right? If it's line work, probably. If
Yeah.
it's like shaded or whatever, it might be longer.
Mm.
But yeah, like it's helpful. And I mean, I've had one client actually recently, and it was a great experience actually. I like this client a lot. But I worked on one gun for definitely over a month, maybe
Wow.
2.
2 months for a gun.
But I probably did like 50 drawings, 60 or 70 drawings, iterations.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was so much better than if I had just done it, that I actually grew quite a bit as an artist. And it was really fulfilling to see that growth. And yeah, they paid well enough that I didn't really feel annoyed working so long on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So why so many guns? So you did so many drawings then one final 3D gun, you saying?
No,
Is that
actually, I did 2 final 3D guns.
Oh, okay.
But that's what it took to get it to where it needed to be,
Yeah.
and in the end, I think it was completely worth it. And yeah, I'm a little bit proud of what I was able to do, because it was very far from my comfort zone. Like
Yeah.
designing, I can't say too much. I'll say it's a gun,
Mm.
and guns have slides and body parts, and designing all of those iterations for every different part, and like trying to match a difficult, elusive kind of thing was is very interesting. And that's actually one of the things that's funny. Like I was doing a lot of personal work, and I actually always have a lot of personal work, but something about working with clients is one of the most challenging things at times, and it's also one of the best, because I found the most growth has come from like doing other stuff. And like, to answer your question, why guns? I don't fucking know. I just started doing them, and now it's like, oh, what do I make? I'll just make another gun. I don't actually want to make guns. I want to do everything else. But
Yeah.
if I have like, a day, I can make a gun. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. You can make a gun in a day. I mean, with fusion and things like that. I was experimenting. I made a concept gun. I think I spent like 3 hours on it, and I was like, because I never make guns or anything like that. And I was like, oh, what can I make in like maybe 3 hours? And I just went and done it because what I wanted to do is like similar to what you're doing. Like you draw a gun, and I was like, maybe I can make this in Fusion. And I tried like importing it into Fusion, and it ran so slow. And I was like, oh, this not sure this is going to work as a workflow. But I'll have to ask you later about that if you think it would work. But going back to your thing, like you're pretty much you're drawing a few concepts, and then you get the go ahead, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. And I guess when you work in Fusion, is it, are you, because I know Fusion, they just got hotkeys and certain aspects like that. Is there any, do you work with like, because I have like I have like a keyboard here, and like it's like a gaming, it's like one of those gaming keyboards, and you set up custom hotkeys. And
yeah.
what I've been doing is like I want to set up delete to a certain button, and make a lot of shortcut for the hotkeys. So I find in Fusion anyway, if you had a custom keyboard, it might be more efficient. Do you think that's the case, or do you have any type of like fancy things like that?
To be honest, I just keep everything on my S key, and then I have a bunch of shortcuts. So I
Mm,
mean, I think shortcut keys, I'm really used to it. I'm a Max user, and you kind of have to like be quick hotkeying, I guess,
mm,
where my users are like, pie menu people or whatever.
mm.
So I don't know. I just hotkey everything, and try to click very fast. So yeah, I don't know. People sometimes say I look like I'm sped up when I'm modeling sometimes. I've
Yeah,
heard that before, because
yeah,
like I can click very fast, and I don't know why. I noticed some people are fast clickers and some people are slow clickers. So
I mean, do
I think it
you
also depends
are
what.
you using a tablet?
No, I just use a mouse. I also draw
Oh,
with a mouse.
what?
Yeah, like I draw with a mouse. I don't know if I have
I
any.
understand what you mean though, because
Well,
it's like hard surfacey, like
it's
a
so
mouse.
lazy.
No, no,
You're just like,
no,
yeah.
I feel like the mouse is like a brick, and it's more strict. You know what I mean? For hard surface, sometimes. So like when you
I
use a
think,
tablet, it's more organic. Because I use the mouse in ZBrush sometimes.
okay, you're crazy. I
So
can't do
yeah.
that.
Well, I learnt to use the mouse in ZBrush because I didn't have a fucking tablet.
Wow,
That's that long ago.
that
So
that's hardcore, man. I could never do ZBrush with a mouse, but yeah, for sketching, like, okay, I try to have good posture, but sometimes I'm like in the zone. I'm just zoning out. And like I don't want to be sitting up here drawing like on my Wacom tablet, like so attentive. Like maybe it's like 2 in the morning, I'm fucking tired, and I'm just like leaning back in my chair,
mm.
just relaxing and drawing something. I don't know. It's so much more calm, I
Mm.
guess. Like
Are you
you don't
doing
have to
something on the
be.
video? Because by the way, your video doesn't work. I'm not sure if you knew
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess my video is broken. Let me see if I can fix that
Oh
really
shit! I
quick.
thought you just didn't have a video.
I've had it this whole time. All right. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you had audio issues also because
Can you see it?
I just thought not yet. I think there's a little eye. So if you go to I think if you go to start video and then you select your camera, if you have any like other recording software open, it will might not let the webcam work. So if you go to like video settings and you have a look in video settings, you'll see you have to select your camera.
Okay. I mean, I have my. Has it been not working this whole time
Yeah,
or?
the whole time.
Oh, oh no, I've been showing stuff too.
No. It's working. I can't see you though.
Oh, I don't have a camera.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
my
yeah.
bad.
I mean a camera. This is screen capture.
Oh, okay. I was worried. Yeah, yeah.
Because I
I
thought
only have a
you were
camera on my
talking about your
laptop.
posture, and I thought you were like illustrating something
Ah,
people
okay.
to see. But you were just talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like to sit back in my chair sometimes. Man, I don't know how you do it. How do you actually have good posture all the time? Like I literally try. I even bought
Ah,
those things that shove your ass in the back of the chair,
I can
and
talk.
I will still find a way to be sitting down again. Like
Dude,
I don't get it.
all right. So let me explain. Okay. So I realized like I had terrible posture. Like I had everything was wrong. Like so okay. There's a whole thing of like harmony with your body. Like one thing like I used to squint. I used to keep, so it sounds weird. I used to keep my tongue in the lower part of my mouth, and I used to lean on one leg and not use my toes. So talking about posture, if you want to use your posture, and you need your shoulders back. You need to have your shoulders back, and it will take you years to correct it. And not leaning on one leg, like a lot of people, if you look at people, they lean on one leg. You're not using their toes. They've got fallen arches. Like it's a whole body thing, right? Everything's a whole body thing, and like your tongue is one of the strongest muscles in your body, and it keeps your neck in a good position as well, and it keeps the growth of your face correctly growing, and helps keep your teeth straight also. Um, and like when I was squinting, like I've realized that there's a muscle in my eye that I have to control because I have a lazy eye, and so if I don't control it, it will dart off. Like a bunch of this
Oh,
shit.
really?
Yeah, and I've just learned to control it. And I gotta control it and not squint at the computer. A lot of people squint, and then it causes their eyesight to get worse. You can't do those things. So like and as well as my posture, that I've had to analyze it. So I've had to be like, I need to get a standing table because I need to rebuild my posture because I have weak feet. And so I have one foot that's weaker than the other. And even right now, it hurts more than my right foot. And so I just endure the pain. At first, when I first got a standing table, my foot would burn like on fire. And I'm just like, gotta get through
Really?
it, gotta get through it. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to strengthen it. And eventually it fixed all my back issues. It fixed my posture issues. I'm slowly, like, I used to snore a lot and my snoring's coming down now. Like heaps of things like that. That's probably linked to mood and the way observing stress. Like all these things, getting everything, it's like a total rebalancing and learning to walk again. I didn't know how to walk. I used to walk on my heels, and like that's the incorrect way to walk. Like, so you sitting, right? If you're sitting, it's like they say smoking is pretty bad, right? But they say sitting is almost as bad as smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you really want to get your health going, get yourself a standing table. Be observant of all those things I said. Like where do you like keep your tongue in your mouth? Like because it's called something like mewing.
Mewing, yeah.
Mewing. And like keeping, this is why like actually some people are more attractive than other people also, because better upbringing, genetics and stuff. But where you keep the tongue in your mouth, it actually forms and your face grows around the tongue. And hence the reason why people get braces, because they have bad oral posture and their teeth start to splay out and grow in really funky places. Plus, if all their teeth didn't fall out correctly, they start to try and like your adult teeth come in and they come in crooked. There's lots of reasonings around everything. But going back to like what you're talking about, dude, if you're sitting, you will fuck up your health eventually, because it did to me. I fucked up my back going to the gym and I popped 2 of my discs. So, and that took like that's kind of the reason why I left the scene as well, because my body and everything was fucked from years of sitting.
Yeah.
It was obliterated. Like, I used to do what you do. You slouch in the chair, it's like that, and you lean right back, and you're trying to get comfortable. And no matter what you do, you can never get comfortable. And the most comfortable thing that you can do is stand and then get yourself like a yoga chair where it opens up your hips, and like it's like a kneeling chair, and it doesn't. So when you sit and you're in that 90-degree area, it will fuck up your back. But if you sit with your knees against like a pad, it opens up your hips and then it causes no back strain. So you're essentially, if you're like, I would say about anyone working and sitting in an office chair, it's a ticking time bomb. If you're sitting all day, it is like you're it will only take you like one bad thing where you can probably fuck your back up, because you've compromised your spine, and sitting does compromise your spine if you're doing it for long periods. So man,
and you think you like, I try to keep in shape. Like even if I, didn't eat so great or whatever throughout the years, I always stayed up on like, keeping some amount of muscle, like, lifting whatever. But even you're saying like for you, even though you went to the gym a lot, or do you think like, did you have like bad posture when you did deadlifts or something? Like what fucked up your back from the gym?
It's because I'm imbalanced. Like I've been,
I
so
see.
my whole life I lent on one foot more than the other. So that will cause imbalance. Like my feet, if you walked around, right, and you weren't using one foot correctly, would you think the body would operate correctly? It wouldn't. It doesn't operate.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be imbalanced. Like we evolved to have perfect balance. And a lot of people don't have perfect balance. If you ever watch yourself, like, so I intentionally, when I stand or when I get up, I'll always not lean on the wall or grab something to get myself up and help myself up, because that's strength that, you need. If you can't get up off the ground without leaning on something, if you find yourself like you're standing and you kind of lean against the table, you're actually essentially not strong enough to stand even for 5 minutes, even though we evolved to stand. And that's like the holy grail of evolution, is to stand. And many people can't stand for a minute, or like even, I mean, they stand. I've seen people like they start leaning on things, and that's weakness in the human body, and it will cause imbalances later on. And like as soon as I corrected my weaknesses, my back got better. Like I'm not in pain anymore. I used to be in pain all the time. So I'm not sure about you. Are you in pain?
No, I'm fine. Like I have bad joints in general though. So like I actually used to have a standing desk, but then I moved and now I don't
No.
have one anymore. But uh yeah, I don't know. I like standing desks and all of that, but I find that it's really hard for me to get into the zone when I have them. I don't have pain though. Like I try I try to get enough exercise. You know, I live on the sixth floor and I have to walk it several
No.
times a day. Try to do cardio, try to lift at home, all of that. But yeah, actually, the most annoying thing is basically whenever I make progress in like lifting or anything like that, I always have an injury because I have bad joints. I'm actually missing part of my shoulder, the bursa,
Wow.
and that got taken out when I was like 16. So
What
because
happened?
he said I had the bursa of a 70-year-old man
Shit.
because it had so much scar tissue on it.
Wow. Is it
Yeah,
genetic
so
or is it diet? Is it?
I don't know. To be honest, when I was younger, I didn't eat so well. Like I didn't eat a lot of veggies, but I have no fucking idea.
Well, they
I
say
mean,
because I cut all bread, everything out of my diet. So like you get what is it like sugars cause inflammation, bread causes inflammation in the
yeah.
body. Like all these things. Like I've heard people who stop eating bread, their joints started to get a little bit better. So I mean, you could I don't know. Do you have a good diet at the moment?
I mean, my diet's okay. Maybe a little
Mm.
bit too many like sweets here and there, but
Uh,
yeah, I eat fine. You know. So I
look,
try to eat meats and veggies, but I'll have bread and things like that still, of course.
yeah, I think look, bread is I don't know. Like my views on bread, I think bread is probably um, whenever I've eaten bread, I feel like crap from eating the bread. And there's a thing where they said as soon as human beings started eating, well, as modern agriculture kicked in, our teeth started falling out. Before that, our teeth never fell out, and that's because of refined, breads and things like that, wheats and things, because of
Like
the
our
germ.
baby teeth, you mean? Or
No, adult like your teeth, how they can rot. It's not natural
yeah,
for your
yeah.
teeth to rot, right? So that's caused by the Weston Price. He went out and studied the tribes who don't eat bread, and then tribes where they actually start eating bread and bringing that into their diet. And the tribes who never ate any bread had pearly white teeth, perfect teeth, nothing wrong with their teeth. And the thing is, on top of that, they had straight teeth, right?
Interesting.
And the theory is that if you eat crunchy food like carrots and crunchy stuff growing up and non-soft food, it's what develops a strong good jaw, is that type of food, because it's like you need to develop that biting and action. And then on top of it, what happens with our modern food diet is that the bread, it has the bacteria in it that lives in the bread, in the yeast, and so that gets on your teeth and sticks. And then what happens is we have sugars in our diet, and then the sugar fuels the bacteria and rots away your teeth.
Okay. Interesting.
That's
I didn't
yeah.
think I didn't know that.
No one knows that, and everyone just thinks, oh, like you got rotten teeth, but it's all diet. It's all diet. Everything's always been diet. A lot of things is always diet for health related stuff and mindset. And I think with a lot of things like that, you might be surprised if you started taking bread out of your diet. You might feel a lot better. You might feel a lot better. You can only try it and then see, because bread is a bit like cocaine, right? It kind of like hits the pleasure center in your brain when you eat it.
As soon as you have it, you want more.
Exactly, man.
Same with sugar. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did keto quite a few times, and actually, the thing is, I like food. Like I like to enjoy food. I like to cook food. Well, actually, I like to cook food a lot, and I don't think I want to live without these things, but I do want to eat,
Yeah.
like to continue eating better as a person throughout my whole life. Like I always want to try and be better at taking care of myself. But
Yeah.
I think oh, fuck, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, I don't remember what I wanted to say, but one thing I did want to say is I think it's fucking ridiculous that in America, I don't know about about Australia, but in
Mm.
America that we have the fucking food groups and it's just
Uh,
like bread and shit and trash. It's ridiculous.
you flip it.
Like
if you flipped it, have you heard that saying? If you flip it,
Yeah, I've,
like you flip it up. I think if you flip it upside down, it's the correct way to eat.
yeah.
I'm not sure if you look at it.
I mean, to be honest, my ideal way to eat, like when I'm like trying to eat, not eat good, but what I did a lot. Sorry, I want to go back to keto. That's what I want to say. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I did keto, and I had every time I do keto, I have insane amounts of energy. I
mm,
don't get fucking tired at all. Like I have
mm.
pure focus too. It feels great, but I there's too little foods for me to be happy with that lifestyle. So
Well, look, so I can give you some advice. So it took me maybe close to a year to get to the point where I don't crave any bad food anymore. Nothing,
yeah,
nothing. And the only reason why I crave nothing is that I put enough fruit and veg in my diet to satisfy those urges, and I fill myself up. And it's all about, because it's like an addiction to something. You got to curb the addiction for long enough where your brain stops wanting it, and it will take a long time. But the thing is, what it sounds sad, but like I look at food as like fuel, this fuel, and every now and again I might like eat something, but I will only do it if I feel like being reckless. And like if I'm not feeling like being reckless, I won't do it. And because I know I always, you know how you said on keto you perform better, it's because you're using ketones, right? And those types of things in your brain are the best thing for you. So if you're having like things like if you have fish oil in your diet, your brain works off fats and things like that. It's fueled
yeah,
by fats, and that's why you had that real good focus. And I think if you want really good focus, that's why I was saying to you before, like I was going to start cutting out, I'm not sure if it was to you, but I was going to start cutting out my fruit from my diet, because it would
yeah.
accelerate my my focus. So I'm going all about fully optimizing things. And like when you have focus, it's like you get that in that zone. It's like addictive, and the work starts, how you produce work, it's like that. It creates like a drip feed for dopamine and that reward part, and hopefully that you can get, like, it's like getting everything aligned where you can get diet, workflow, and all these things in your mindset, where you can just like sit down and be completely in the zone. And you can go the extra mile. Like sometimes I like to disconnect the internet and then go, like, because when you've like disconnected the internet from your computer, it's like it takes away that little drip feed of like the addictive nature of having the internet there also, which is
That
another.
constant dopamine.
Yeah. And it's dopamine, right? Because we're fueled on that dopamine hit. And so with that simple monkey brain is like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And so since we're like really badly behaved, we have to cut those things off and try and minimize as much as things. Because that's what I was thinking with you. If you want like even more focus, you're really like, you could tune yourself even more through diet and other little things like that. That's why I was asking you, do you have like is a monkey using a phone?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like
Yeah,
they do the exact same shit, just
we do.
scroll, and it destroys your ability to like, pay attention to things. And
Yeah,
it's
that's why I said you got to like disconnect the internet. You can get some music on something else, or like you play, like just play a movie that, like, I like to play movies that I've seen 100 times. Yeah, I'm not sure if you like
yeah,
that. And it's just
I
like,
like Star Trek over and over.
yeah.
Yeah.
I watched Red Dwarf. I'm not sure if you've seen Red Dwarf.
No, I never heard of it even.
Dude, if you like sci-fi, go watch Red Dwarf. It's a funny sci-fi sitcom in space.
All right, I'll look it up.
It's awesome. It's really well written. It's British comedy and it's really well done. Like it's that dry humor. It's a sci-fi in space. It's probably the only kind, except I think they released another one just recently. But yeah, man, like you could tune a lot more than you think. That's why I was curious, because when you wake up, right, are you do Does it find you like? Do you find it hard to sit down and work some days?
I would say my problem is I just work too much, like
Mm,
to a point that I don't really want to. Like right now, I don't want to make a kit bash set, but I'm making a huge kit bash set because I know it'll save me time. But yeah, I don't know.
mm,
I wake up and I feel actually I don't like it. I feel the need to do things too much. And so,
mm.
so like if I wake up and I didn't sleep enough even, like I'll just feel like I need to get some stuff done.
Yeah,
But that's just because, the reality of life is that we only have so much time and you can only be good at so many things in such a
mm.
small period of time. And I feel like, that time is always ticking, right?
Yeah. It
Uh,
is. It is. There's
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you wanna show some fusion stuff? Anything that you did that big mech? That was pretty cool.
yeah. So I made this mech like I don't know, start of 2018, and I've been I've been literally searching for 2 years for the perfect workflow to do my renders in. Like I
All
wanted to
right.
do something cool with it. So like I actually have a bunch of finished renders that I
No.
did in Keyshot, and I'm not like this is a whip one. These are all whip renders, but
Mm.
like they're all like huge EXRs. Okay, great. Yeah, like I tried for so long to here these ones suck. Let me open my AirStation. I'll talk about it a bit. But yeah, like I tried for so long to get Keyshot to look exactly how I wanted it, and I could just never fucking do it for these types of things. Like single things, whatever, sure. I can make like, a nice materials for like a gun, but like Keyshot, it looks so harsh. The
Well, there's
shading, like the shadows are so bad, and like
well,
that looks sweet.
there's a plugin that I use called Magic Bullet. You could try that. Um, it just adds, but you have to do a bunch of color correction along with it, and it will just kind of it brings out the values that you need. If you know what I
Hmm.
mean. I could even just try now, and I should try. I'll try. I could try something in one of your renders. But
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Magic Bullets for After Effects though, right?
no, you got a Photoshop.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Do you have
Interesting.
that mech on your
Yeah, let me send it. I think the thing is though, beyond like the color grading, uh, I feel like Keyshot just the look of it, if you compare it with Octane or another render, it's just harsh.
Hmm.
Like the lighting is harsh, but also the metals have like they don't feel as nice. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like it blows out of the values very easily. And the other thing I dislike a lot about Keyshot is just the post effects that it has are shit. Like they're
Yeah.
just bad. Like there's
Yeah.
no excuse. Like you look at Octane, you look at Redshift, like what is this? Like
Octane just
what
does
is
the
this?
best metals ever. Though
Yeah.
it does. It's like pure bliss. It's like I'm so addicted to rendering that like I get stuck with rendering when I do use a good rendering engine. Like how you sit down, it's like I can't stop. That's why if you look at some of my renders, like they look really good because I love the rendering side of things, but I never really I I lack the patience to fuck around with like you were saying, the workflow aspect of it. It's clunky. To render stuff, it's clunky. It's real clunky. Like
Yeah.
you gotta do all the materials, you gotta go through it and like set it all up, and you're just like, shoot me now. Like for that you to do that mech, right? You would have to go through each part, color it, color code it. So you have to prep it. I mean, you can prep it in an external. Well, you could. Did you do like a kind of like polygroup system, where you got like certain um, material, certain sections that are all going to have the same material? Did you do that or?
I mean, I kind of always model with material breakup. And
Mm,
so like I kind of had an idea of what I want, but I feel like it always changes when I'm in the renderer, right? And so that's where working with Octane was not the thing for me because, like, again, if you want to change them, it's a pain in the ass. Like just like one part, you have to re-import the model basically. If you have like
Oh,
1,000
and are
parts,
you
which
saying in Octane?
yeah. Because
Because
like
you're
if you
using
expose,
the standalone one, right?
yeah, and I very much hate the max version
Oh,
because
really?
of how long it takes to update the renderer. Yeah, like listen, I want everything right now. Like I started using Keyshot, and Keyshot is like, right now. Like you have 40,000 polys, don't fucking care. Updates.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. So I'm used to this. I can't live without this. And in Octane for Max, like you have to hit a button, wait for it to
Yeah.
update. It's fucking horrible. Redshift is almost always updated. Redshift is fast as hell.
Yeah.
And it also looks great. But yeah, so I that's the thing. That's why I'm putting all this energy into my kit bash set because it's like before, okay, I'm making a render. Okay, I want a background. Let me model that now. Okay, I have a crate. Let me go find that, put materials on it, blah, blah, blah. Or I can just have it in Blender. I have all my decals on it, already assigned all my materials, drop that fucker in, load it up, render the thing, like
Mm. Yeah.
I it's so frustrating, like, yeah, finding a
I,
good render workflow.
I get it. I mean, you kind of like made me kind of, because I have been umming and ahhing between using Blender, and I'm trying to find, because I looked at Blender and I wanted to do the modeling stuff in Blender, and like I hated the modeling aspect, but I think um, I want to use things like Box Cutter and Mesh Machine for certain stuff. And I was thinking if I can use it in a certain combination of workflows, like just like you're doing, you're trying to find that. I kind of like say it's like the holy grail of workflows. It's the 1, 2, 3 punch instead of like how you're working and it's like one and you're like, and you're grinding to two sometimes. You're trying to get that smooth workflow where you've got the idea and now you need to just start implementing it. It's it's that saying, if you plan, you don't plan to fail type of thing. I'm not sure if that's the saying, but it's something along those lines anyway.
Yeah, I think for me personally, and by the way, I'll send you this, but it's called e-cycles. One of the guys I work with, he showed me this, and it's basically cycles, but much faster than the stock version. So it's like 2 times faster, oftentimes.
Yeah, I remember,
So
I think seeing something like that. It's like super fast.
yeah. So the one thing that for me, it's just I'm so fucking sick of wasting the precious hours of my life setting up some stupid fucking render. Like I enjoy rendering actually, but once I'm actually doing it, where if half of your time is just waiting for the program because it's hanging or it's crashing or it's auto saving or oh, I want to adjust a material, you need to wait 5 seconds and like it's out of the flow. And like all those 5 second little breaks take you out of that flow state. And
Yeah.
like that's why I like Keyshot, but I hate Keyshot at the same time. Is Keyshot I cannot get looking as good as Octane or as Redshift, but you can get in the flow state with Keyshot. You can like
Yeah.
make something. And so like the problem, I never had a problem with Octane or Redshift. It's that Max and Maya are just trash and Autodesk is horrible.
It is.
Like horrible programs, horrible UI, slow as hell. And then they're like, oh yeah, we want to try and be as good as Eevee with the newest update. And they show like this super subpar, horribly implemented, PBR viewport garbage. Like, why
Yeah.
would I even stay with this? So plus this shit is free, so I'm
Is
not using this anymore.
so the Blender workflow, it does produce a pretty decent effect of doing metals and things like that and skin. I mean, it seems like it is the best of both worlds when it comes to doing it. Oh,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
plus, doesn't
mhm.
this supports Octane? You know that, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. It only, as far as I know, unless they updated it, which last I checked they didn't, it only support the Octane free version only supports one GPU.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I have two. And I also have a 64 core Threadripper because I'm
Yeah.
impatient. And Yeah, it's just here, let me show you something though. So something that's really cool is you can use this optics denoiser, and I mean I'm sure you know what denoising is for, but like the thing that I like the most about it is that you can basically get like your lighting in your scene, even though you have like this really shit looking thing. So let me show you. I'm not a super fast blender guy yet, you know.
That's
But
all right.
let's do like 1,000. Yeah, whatever, 1,000. Turn it from EV cycles. GPU. Experimental. All right, and so now it'll be using like RTX, but this denoiser, you can see it right here, it like makes everything look like shit. But if you're just doing lighting, you know, it allows you to preview all that bounce light and everything pretty much in real time, even though you're using like a you know, a typical render engine. And so I can like literally get my lighting done very quickly
Mm.
because it just solves like this and it gets rid of that noise. And
Yeah.
then if I want to focus on like my roughness maps or like, you know, really tweak it, I just switch to EV and it'll look close enough. And in real time, like I can get the roughness looking correct and then switch back to cycles. So like it's allowing me, and then like if I want to model, I just go over here to modeling, I model it, and then I go back to shading, right? Like so just it's not perfect. It's not as fast as Keyshot for me. Like the UI still will stutter and whatever, but the workflow itself, as I figure it out more and more, is like closer to what I'm looking for. You know, this like responsiveness, and plus it's way more stable than Max. Like I don't know if you use Max ever. Like you're an
Mm.
XSI guy, right?
I use Max from time to time. Like I used Octane and Max just because I found it. Like I used to use V-Ray for Max, and I found it
Mm.
just more comfortable to use. But yeah, I know what you mean. It crashes a lot. It's terrible.
But you love those, you know, those autosaves, right? Those are fun.
Yeah.
You're
Well, it's
like in the
questionable.
flow state, autosave 5 minutes. Like why?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm used to the fucking ZBrush crashing with it crashes so many times. ZBrush. I mean, XSI never crashes. It's like the most solid piece of software I've ever used. It is like bulletproof.
Really?
Yeah, it's such a good piece of software, and this is why Vitaly still uses it. I had a chat with him like, "What are you going to start using anything else?" And kind of thing. I was not saying that, but like I was suggesting, like asking him, you know, what do you think of this new modeling, poly modeling? And he's like, "Yeah, I've looked at that." But I sat there and I tried and learning it called Envil, and like I didn't like it in comparison to XSI. There's something about XSI modeling where you dive in and you like can go really quick. And this is why I was like wondering what you're doing yours in. And you did Max. You probably would have loved. I mean, you could still use XSI for some poly modeling because I think you'd love it because it's nice and quick and it doesn't have like to get to things and do things. It's just quick. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
it's none of that fucking around. You know, like that stupidness of opening like Blender, right? When you do want to do poly modeling with subdivision, you have to smooth it first. Like you notice that you have to smooth the
Yeah,
mesh.
like the smoothing group thing,
Yeah.
the
Why?
weird.
Why? Why
Dude,
you
I
got?
don't know.
Yeah, but
There's definitely a few really fucking dumb things in Blender for sure. My dream is that I will be able to overcome those things and become as comfortable as I am in Max or better because like
mm,
even though I know there's other programs that are better, like Max is for basic modeling, Max is a good program. It's not
yeah, it
good
is.
enough and the support is shit. But
What's support?
like yeah. Oh, hey guys, we've been working for a year. Can you give us you know, $2,000 or more? Here's
Yeah,
like 5 new tools and a bug fix. Like,
yeah,
okay, well, Blender just added a new render engine that's real time. All of these plugins, like what are you even thinking anymore? Like
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
I
They
uh
actually price themselves out of
I
that.
just want everything in one place. That's it. You
Yeah,
know? Like
that's the
it's too
holy
much.
grail. But I don't think we're ever going to have that. I don't think we
Yeah.
will. So what is all this effects? These are just rain effects you're applying.
Oh no, I'm just putting lights on a metal, but
Oh,
I was
okay, it
just
looks like
showing like this.
rain. It's a bit blurry on the feed here, but
Yeah,
almost look like water drops for a second.
yeah, it's because it's the AI denoising. It's
Okay.
It's
So have you
horrible looking, but
have you
Mhm.
got anything that you've tried to render in here yet?
Yeah, so I can't show any of it because it's all NDA, so that's
Uh,
why I'm not. But yeah, I did some stuff for clients, like an environment piece,
yeah.
and that's kind of what allowed me to get into rendering for Blender. Like they're just like, yeah, make some environments. I'm like, okay,
So
and I figured out what works for me.
you made a full blown environment, like like with props and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I was importing props, like all my old kitbash stuff I had made, and like using that. And I just realized, like very quickly, like I don't know yet if I will be how easy it'll be or how long it'll take me to get good at
Mm.
rendering in Blender to the point that I can be better than Keyshot or like Redshift. But at this point, I almost don't care because like what I learned from how I manage my assets and can save myself time and build my material, my asset library is going to save me so much more time that I'll actually have the time to kind of like get things looking how I want to. Where before, like I know you have XRefs and like all this shit in Max, but the UI is just horrible. Like
Mm.
I don't want to build a library for Max. Like I don't know. It's too painful. So I'm hoping that I can get a good look and also like, you know, get that time and that flow back. So
Yeah, because the way you're linking it in Blender is it the same way you link materials?
yeah, so like let's say I closed Blender. No, I didn't. So like let me load up. So here you have append and link. So link is uneditable and append is like editable.
Mm.
So I can like go in here to my asset library. We can go like yeah, like crates. I'm just pulling these crates here, collection. And then I like I didn't show it because I accidentally pressed OK, but like I link everything to a collection. And so like a collection is like just a group of objects. And so I just named each collection. So like this one is great tech. I think it's medium one. No,
Are
that's not
these
one.
OBJ files or what are those?
So they're just Blender files. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
this is my model. But if I were to go to let me just put an HDRI in here for the sake of this. All right. Cool. Berlin, load of Berlin, Potsdamer Platz. All right, yeah. So I mean, this is just a separate file. And the cool thing is if I link this, which means I can't edit it, I don't know, but I think I can unlink it, or I can just import it not linked, and I can change the materials if I want. But if I just want the ones that I assigned in the file, then I can. So if I go over here and I just open a new Blender, you know, I can manage all of my assets separately, and that's the biggest thing. Like I don't have to have some horrible thing. So for example, like my kit bash pieces, like my crates here, these are all going to be referencing all of the materials, everything on them will be actually stored in my material library.
Mm.
And the way that I link them into here is non-destructive. So when I import this material into another scene, it'll actually be tied to the same ones as the other materials. So it'll like reduce draw calls, reduce the amount of like, I don't know about draw calls, but it'll reduce how many like materials I have. It'll keep everything like tidy and organized. And so if I want to make changes to the asset, I can just do it in here. And if I want to, and like have it update across all of my environments, or if I want it to not update, I can just edit it in my final scene. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
So that material, those materials are linked. So that crate scene you had open. It had multiple crates in it though, and you only loaded
Yeah.
one. How did you only load
Yes.
one crate into that?
So I make these collections over here, and each of these collections has basically like like an object in it and a group of objects. And then so when I go to link, I just link that specific I just link that specific the specific object I want. And then if I want to edit the materials, so I have here like all my materials. I have like decals, forest grounds, bases, metals, whatever. So let's go painted metals, and then I can open up here, and then this is going to be my material library for, oh nice HDRI, for this specific move.
So that's just
Yeah,
like
so
that's pretty much a material scene only, essentially.
yep, and
And
so
then
that's all that's in here.
yeah,
These four, and then they're all linked to this object in the other scene. So
okay, yeah. So
basically, the whole workflow is non-destructive.
it's all linked within links, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's
So I thought maybe you're having the crates and then you're setting the materials up in the crate scene, but you're actually taking the materials from the actual material scene. I get you now. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
I don't want to have to like waste time anymore. So it's like
Yeah.
I import a crate. It's textured. It is everything. Good to
Mm.
go. You know. So
And it's fun to set up procedural textures. I like that. I'm not sure if you do to
I do,
yeah.
but I don't want to do it for every object. You know.
Yeah.
Like I just want to focus on my main thing. So if I'm rendering a mech, I don't want to worry about anything else. And
Yeah.
I want to have a base to go off. Like we both go off of like a key shot base, right? And then we edit on top of it. And like I want that base to always be there and be consistent. And yeah,
How,
basically.
how do you think the Blender stacks up to Octane rendering for quality? I think it seems pretty good.
You know what? Here's the thing. This is what I tell myself. I think probably Octane's better,
Oh
but
yeah.
like my friend Josh, like he's doing some really crazy shit in Blender. Like these are all Octane renders. Um, and like, you know, this could be in probably Keyshot or something else, and no one would really know, right? Like
Yeah.
these are all Octane. And so I mean, this is actually Eevee, so this is in real time.
Mm.
And yeah, so I mean, if you can get this kind of result in Octane, or in some cases better, like it, you know, it's enough, I think.
Yeah.
So
I think the combination of doing it in Blender means you can set up your scenes and make scenes and environments and things like that. I see it as the future of workflows. And I think it's like everyone is kind of reluctantly getting into Blender. I think that's what I would say. Everyone's kind of reluctantly getting into it because it's kind of like the new kid on the block. And
yeah,
it's being disruptive and all for good reason. Um, I think at some point it will probably be a dominating thing if they get their shit together in terms of being like, hey, let's make some awesome let's improve the modeling workflow in Blender and take out the
yeah.
quirks, and then it will just obliterate the competition. And I think Autodesk, man, as bad as it sounds, I think they need to get their shit together. They really do.
They,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm pretty vocal about my extreme dislike for Autodesk products. I
Mm.
do need to say though, I think Fusion's great. It could be a lot better, and I could make a huge list of how it could be better. Fusion is probably my only favorite, my only Autodesk product that I really like. But Max and Maya, man, especially Max, like it's it's an old freaking reliable dinosaur, but it's time for it to die. And it's not just time for it to die. I think it's time for Autodesk to just grow the hell up. Like
I think we need.
it's hmm?
Well, I think we need to change. I think someone needs to
Yeah.
create something new. We need something new. Like we've got all these different modeling techniques. Now we just need. I think we need something new. It's time for a new modeling technique. As weird as that sounds, for some genius guy to come along and go, "Hey, look, you want a hard surface, you want organics, we can do it. Like we can do it in this certain modeling technique. And look, we can even render the thing, you know, and it all has procedural textures, and you don't have to unwrap anything. Like it's like,
And it can't be that hard. Like really. I mean, think about it. It's gonna happen.
yeah,
But
some point.
nobody yet has thought about it
Yeah.
or figured it out. And the thing is, like, I don't think that it's it's just crazy. It's like, you know, we built a fucking space station. We orbit the Earth. You know, we can land on the moon. We can send probes to another planet. But I still have to unwrap my model and
Yeah.
I still have to add fucking edge loops. Like, it's
Yeah.
2020. When am I gonna, that's valuable time from my life. I,
Yeah.
I would like
Technical.
somebody else to waste their time making me a tool so I can have that time.
I think, yeah, look, I think the modern art of doing artwork is like painting, right? You just paint the fucking thing. You don't have to think about nothing, right? But the thing is,
Yeah.
and I think that's why people undervalue themselves. It's like we as artists, we have to think about, look at your workflow that you have to come up with. And you should be fucking paid well for that. You have to put so much time into that shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's complicated as fuck. And you're having to like, how many different programs you have to go through and store in your bloody memory and get to an efficient point where you're using it and offering it to clients. Like it is ridiculous. Like a painter, right, will sit down and paint. And if they're successful painters, they can sell a painting for 10 grand, 20 grand. We don't do that at times. It's like you got to slave away to get there. And it's like a lot of times they can get paintings done. Like, like some people do paintings and just get it done so quickly is that like he was talking about the workflow. We still get stuck in the workflow and it doesn't, the workflow doesn't flow. Like it's not the 1, 2, 3 type of punch. It's like the constant clicking and fumbling. And like you look at Fusion and you're like, well, Fusion could be streamlined way more. It could be, but
Oh,
it's not.
easily.
Yeah.
It's so many small things, but it's exactly this. It's such a huge waste of your life. And like you said, the workflow has no flow. Like when I'm rendering, it's like pulling teeth every step of the way, like, okay, I made a change. Let's see it update. Let's wait. Like, okay, now the program's hanging. Okay, I need to change this value. Or like, it's just, it's horrible. And the thing is, if all of this stuff was real time too, you wouldn't have any of these problems. Like, that's why I'm hoping this Blender stuff will work, because like that denoising for lighting lets you light almost in real time with like the noise gone, and so you still get balanced light, you still get all this shit, and you can do like nice ambient lighting. But the other thing that's great about it too is that it makes everything blurry, so you're actually focusing less on the details and more on like the big picture. But anyway, yeah, I the amount of time, like, you're saying, it's interesting about drawing, like you just do it, right? And we're clicking and doing all this dumb bullshit, and it's taking so much of our life away. Actually, I'd say half of modeling is just dealing with bullshit. Same with rendering,
Yeah.
like maybe
Yes.
more. And it's like you're not even being creative, you're just learning how to be creative in a really horrible box.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to be in yet, in the future. Hopefully we won't. So
And no one's being, and everyone just, there's a lot of artists punishing themselves by not being paid what they want to be paid also, which I find ridiculous, because it is one of the hardest things to do, but then a lot of people undervalue themselves for doing one of the hardest things. And there's some people doing it really well, and they just, as you say, like it's like there's punishment in doing it, and then people don't have the courage to like speak up. And it's just like, you're gonna sit there and slave away and waste your life away for doing these things. And you never, like, it's one of those things that's like, I don't think people realize how hard it is. It's just why those VFX industries, I mean, the VFX industry is terrible, and like the companies shut down because like to make some of those things and make games in general, and like you have people who make like the last, Naughty Dog, they will be doing crunching because nothing ever works. Nothing works properly. Like in
yeah.
game development, it's like when you're saying you don't want to see how the sausage gets made. Like I've worked in game development, and you know what happened? I stopped playing games after I fucking worked at a game company. Like I kind of like, it changes the way the magic is like done, because you're having to get into the nitty gritty of having to do all like the boring poly modeling and all the real technical stuff. And that's what I'm hoping from the Unreal Engine, the new Unreal Engine 5. And it'll be like this kind of like the big weight is, if we can get that same type of thing, I feel like maybe we're going to get that soon enough with the current way that we're doing all these things, that something will have to it's like it's been done for so long. We need a point of change. Like it feels like that point of change should be coming soon. You have to hope. You only can only hope. I mean, I've always wished for someone to just come out with a tool and like, you know, like how ZBrush comes out with certain tools, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have ever thought about that. We haven't
Yeah.
had that for a while.
Yeah. You
Mm.
know, few things. First one, back to rates. I think that I just need to say this, especially since people listen. The rates in Europe are fucking horrible, and I don't understand it, and it's disgusting. Like
Mm.
almost every studio in Europe pays like trash compared to American companies, and it's honestly so frustrating. Like there's not a single studio I can think of unless they paid like American rates that I would ever work for here, because like, you know, you're talking about you know, Gorilla and other ones like that. Like I looked at Glassdoor for almost every studio here, and they're almost all like capping out at like 50 or 60K. And then you have like what, or 50% tax on top of that. Like,
Jeez, yeah.
why the fuck would I do that? Like, why
Yeah.
would I work 9 years of my life and then go get paid that? You know, you
Yeah.
could go to LA, you could go to Seattle, you could get paid double, triple that.
Yeah.
You know, it's disgusting. And yeah, like these studios are making tons of money, and
Oh,
then so
yeah.
many people are afraid to talk about money. Like I try to tell people like how much I make, how much you can make. Like
Mm.
I don't understand why there's like this thing about money where people don't want to
Mm.
talk about how much I make, and all that really does is let people fuck you over more. And yeah,
Do you
it's
do you share your day rate?
yeah, I share it with my friends and
Yeah.
stuff.
I'll be curious
Um,
to know how much you're making for doing all your
yeah,
stuff.
it depends. Like when I first started, I was making like, I don't know, like, you know, it's standard day rate, like 550 a day. It's not super high
Mm.
or anything. That was like my standard. And now it kind of depends for me, like on the client, right? So like short term, I'll ask for more. So like if it's like a week project, I'll ask for a higher rate because, you know, I'm only there for a week. So, you
Makes sense.
know, like it depends. And then some, like I would say, like for me, you know, around 700,
Mm.
675, 700, 750 is like a typical long-term project rate.
Mm.
And, you know, as I, you know, have more things done now, that'll keep going up, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, like I've had things where I made, you know, like 1,000 something a day.
Mm.
And it's just because, you know, like if you do lump sum projects, right? You know, you can ask for a lot of money and do it quick and still deliver something good and not get punished
Yeah.
for being
That
quick.
that's something else that I guess I wanted to bring it because I brought up like I did a rates video and I said, you know, you can make up to X amount of dollars a day, but there is that lump sum thing. Like, yeah, like if you can go and finish it in 3 days, but you made more than you made, I don't know, let's say you made 1,500 a day, like you average that. I mean, that's what you do. It's like it's none of their business. It can be like this. It's none of their business and how long you took because it's the skill that you acquired over fucking your whole life to do the fucking thing. This is what I think
Exactly.
we forget about. It's like you forget that the acquisition of skill is the fucking what they're paying for. They're not paying for your fucking time. Like this is what pisses me off. It's like we as artists we look at it like what is the time, how long am I going to spend on it, I'm going to charge this amount. And like I get people and they want to ask, like I don't know if you ever get asked that, they want to ask for your like how much are you on an hour rate also. And so like they
Hour
want to,
rate is hilarious.
yeah, like I've asked Vitaly and stuff like that, and like he told me his rates and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, he deserves that. He fucking deserves it. He works fucking hard, and like he can ask for that because it's like when you're in demand, you can ask for, because you what essentially what happens. So the more in demand you get, and you've literally got like work to the point where you're like you can't like, do all the work. You just eventually price those people out, and the people who want to stay will then accept the price that you're currently wanting to take. So as you're saying that you eventually price yourself up, you could easily start charging like 1,500 a day, because if you can go to that point of like these people will pay you 1,500 a day, because like you've got so much work that it wouldn't it would be silly for you to accept a job at $600 a day if there's another
Yeah.
paying you that much. And so that's something that I think people should eventually learn. But like what people do is they take those stupid low pay rates and it like they get stuck in those jobs. And I bet you like sometimes they'll be getting those jobs where like, hey, I'll pay you like $400 a day, but like you're getting paid $150 a day. Like it's demoralizing, and you can get stuck in those contracts. And man, it's sad.
I mean, I think, yeah, exactly this. And the biggest thing is, like you already said, so many people don't understand. Like, I've literally had students say stuff like, oh, yeah, like money's tight, whatever. I haven't had time to work lately. And I'm just thinking in my head, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Mm,
um, you have in your hands the ability to make the money to get good at something. It's all you need to do. Get good at something and the money will follow you.
mm,
Like if you want to make big money, you have to work very hard to be very good at something. And then people will pay you. And some people think like I hear this thing all the time where people are saying like, oh, like the market's hard, like all this stuff, and then they go home and play video games. Like, well, yeah, fuck yeah, it's hard if you're not working hard at something. What are you expecting to get out of it? Why should I pay you? And like what you said about time is absolutely true too. Like you could pay some junior person, like half as much, but in the end, if it takes them twice as long to do something that for you is easy or even more time to
mm,
get to that point, like somebody says, hey, draw me a concept for a gun, right? And it's you're like a junior, guns aren't really your thing, but you're cheap.
mm.
That person might have to take twice as long or more to get the same quality of work, or they may never get the same quality of work.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely about that, right? Like you spend a lifetime trying to forge this skill so you can shit something out as quick as possible, but it's a good shit, like
And it's not, look, it's
so.
not just that. It's the like you're studying my shape form and stuff like that. That's the stuff I've learned over years to balance and do without even me being too observant of those things. I understand it for myself. And you can't, like a junior has to learn that and through years and years of doing it. And it's like a muscle. Like you go to the gym, your bicep will get, I don't know if you ever go into the gym, you're like, oh, I'm looking bigger than I ever thought. You know what I mean? Like you get these as results and you're not looking for it. And you always get progress when you're not looking for it. I'm not sure if you're like that, but with
Like you go away from something, you come back and you're just like, oh shit, I'm better. Like
yeah,
I don't know what happened. I had this, yeah, recently very
mm,
much with drawing. Like I don't know what happened. I unfortunately can't show it, but like I've been trying to get a nice line style and like learn how to render just basic and 2D, and like something happened, man. And like 2 days ago, I can render and I can paint like basic stuff now. It's like I don't know what happened, but it did.
yeah,
I'm
just put
fucking hyped
hours.
about it. Yeah.
Was it a tutorial or you just sat there and kept doing it?
I asked my friend Josh to show me some rendering stuff, and I don't know, ever since then, like everything just clicked, and I started to just feel like all of the things that I already knew from 3D and whatever, and like even a little bit of 2D, like they all just kind of like came together. And I mean, I'm still not like amazing at it, but like, I
Mm,
feel like I'm starting to yeah, see that path forward.
yeah, that's cool, man.
So yeah.
Do you want to show us some more fusion stuff? Whatever behind the
I
scenes.
can I can show some stuff. Let me hide my fusion. I have so much stuff in here. It's like I can't show, which is unfortunate. I made this mech axe recently. I can show this. This is for the first time I decided to just do something for fun.
Yeah, that's
Because
pretty cool.
I don't do stuff for fun a lot. I usually do stuff for a goal,
Yeah,
and I kind
purpose.
of I noticed you actually do a lot of stuff for fun or like random stuff. Like you don't seem to ever lock yourself like
Not
into a
like
thing. Like you
not lately. Because I haven't got a convincible workflow for myself. Um, Well, the thing is, what I realized is like I can do a character really quick and develop a character really quick and make it look good. So I'm like, maybe I'll just do this for a bit, and in between there, I'm experimenting. Like this is why I'm talking to people, trying to see where people are at with certain workflows and what they've got, and seeing where I can borrow things here and there. And because I'm not, you know how you're not happy with your workflow, I'm not happy with my workflow, and I want to get that kind of that thing. And so in that meantime, I'm just gonna you keep that muscle strong. And um I am doing little bits of drawing as well. You know, you're doing the drawings thing, I'm doing that also. I suck at drawing because I haven't used it in years, and I never
Yeah.
developed my drawing skills. So I'm just like I've set like maybe an hour a day or two. I'm going to try and, there's a theory of doing 2 hours a day. So if you did 2 hours a day of something, you will improve at it. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before. So if you lock in 2 hours a day doing something that you suck at, you'll get good at it. You won't get fantastic at it though. You'll get good.
Yeah.
So that's roughly what you try and aim for. But see, I've been learning Fusion now and jumping around between all these different things. But I'll start doing some bigger projects and get back into it. But I'm like you, man. I'm not happy with, like, I don't like using Octane. I used it for doing that dynamic arm tutorial, and I hate it. It was painful and slow, and I was like, fuck this. This is annoying. This is like, it's painful. It's like
Yeah.
in ZBrush, 3ds Max crashed constantly. So that Blender workflow looks pretty good.
I'm hoping, man. I used it once and it seemed good. And by the way, speaking of ZBrush, I actually like sculpting more than a hard surface. I just don't do it a lot.
It's nice, and it's this freedom to it.
If you want, I can show. I'm by no means a ZBrush master, but if you want, I can show my only ZBrush character design I did.
All right.
Nobody else has seen it, so I mean, I can post it. Let's see, non-NDA freelance, organic character. It's pretty messy, and I got a lot better by the time I was done. But yeah,
I wonder how you would go with concepting in ZBrush and then rebuilding those concepts in Fusion. That's actually pretty
I don't
cool.
know. By the way, I don't know anatomy very well, like barely at all. So I try, but I just really enjoy finding forms in ZBrush. Like I don't know. My workflow is like messy as fuck, and I never rigged any of my characters, but yeah, like super enjoyable, like just a sculpt.
I reckon my criticism to you, you know, if you want to get good form or get good shape flow, dude, you could take out maybe like 10 to 15% of that tertiary detailing, and I think things might work. I think either what will happen is that you'll start looking at the secondary forms more in a weird way before you, because I think do you get to a point where when you're getting to that detail stage, what's going through your head exactly? Like, what are you feeling that you feel that you compulsively, because I look at like some of the details on there, I'm like, I could take out some of the details and the design would be it would read in a I think a more pleasing way. But then
maybe a lot stronger.
Yeah, like if there's a point inside your head where, like, say if you took, like, you could experiment right now. I want to see if you could do it though. Like, just take away some of the details, the tertiary stuff, like where you think you've added too much.
Well, I think most of the places are like in between panels. Like there's a lot of evenness, like a lot of even sized details, and it's really horrible. And I also think I try to group my details, but then I make the groups too big. Like if you look at the border of this is like a detail group. But then I start like getting too excited, and then now the detail group is like this big when it should really be like at the very most like detail group here, here, and here.
Mm.
And I think as far as forms, like when I look at your forms, like if you look at this arm, for example, like I wanted to have like petal type shapes like flowing off, but I think that it's way too many medium forms and the underlying large forms are not good enough. Like pretty much consistently through my work.
Well, look, I'm looking at one alpha about 10 times as
Yeah,
well.
that's because I have 10 alphas.
That's another look. That's the thing. Like that's why I
Yeah.
released that YouTube video saying your reliance on alpha maps is a weakness, because it is. It is a form of a weakness where then you have you overlook design when you use alpha
Yeah.
maps, because you have to. So when you don't use them as much, you have to rely on the design to get you through. And so if I can look at a design and I can tell that you've used the same detail twice within the first, I don't know, like 2 seconds of looking at it, I think you might have failed. Like 1, 2.
I think
Yeah, I
I
want to
think
be.
that's one of the things that I liked about what you said. It wasn't like you didn't say it super specifically and it was kind of vague, but that's I think what I liked about it is and something I'm always trying to get better at is doing something unexpected. And I very much also because of how I learned design, like I learned design doing a very specific shape language, like this
Mm,
alien shapes for Halo. That's really where I learned design even existed. And so for me, like building my visual library to have a larger amount of shapes has been something that has been very much a struggle for me. And I also don't have a big enough library. Like for example, with alphas, like I think if I had enough alphas, like 200 useful ones, it wouldn't look so repetitive. But I only have like 10, and when you really think about it, like let's say you have 100 alphas, maybe 50 of them are like really useful, right? Like
yeah, dude.
so.
It sounds weird, but you get away with just having a bolt alpha. you could you
Yeah.
could get away with just having a bolt alpha. Like if you rely on design and then because I consider the bolt alpha the tertiary stuff. As weird as that sounds, for characters though, that's characters. There's a
Yeah.
different story. But for like bigger things and stuff like that, because with the characters, yeah, you get away with you definitely need some of that kit bashing stuff, but you could get away with not using anything for characters at
Yeah.
times. But it's definitely, if you have more of those, yeah, it would work. You just need to what I do is like sometimes I'll grab the alpha and I'll change the alpha itself and twist it into two alphas. I'll lay down alpha and alpha, like two alphas on one,
Hmm.
to change up the alpha. So that's another thing you can try, combining alphas when you're modeling. So
Okay.
yeah, but it depends. It's like, well, you're concepting in ZBrush, so there's a certain messiness to it and freedom, and you just keep it messy, keep it loose, and your that flow state where you need to be will come there. But we have that thing of we have to be so neat and like precise with things, and I mean it's because we're using like Vitali's workflow. He does it really neat and precise because there is no workflow where it's messy and in that way, because it's purely
Yeah.
using it in using subdivision modeling with CAD modeling, and that's essentially what you get. And like he's got probably the best workflow out of everyone, because it's just he's using MOI, which is easy, right? And then he's using exercise, because it's easy, right?
I think also just having a Kibash library, like I've always done everything unique, and that's something I'm trying to move away from and find a workflow. I don't have a ZBrush workflow, by the way. I literally sculpt with just the basic brushes. And that's it. Like yeah. So I don't even claim
Yeah.
to have any like horse in that race. But as far as like all this poly modeling stuff, like yeah, and CAD, like Vitaly is super heavy on all of this kit bash stuff, and I think like he does it in a way that is right, where he has enough unique stuff, but the stuff that's like, why the fuck should I model like a smoke launcher twice? Like
Mm.
why should I model like a latch twice? Like it doesn't even matter
I
if
would say
unless it's like an important one.
I would say Vitaly doesn't use his kit bash as much as you think. He's not using it that much. So if you look at it, it's not too heavy. It's pretty. He respects the kit bash. That's what I would think. Like there's a lot of respect to it. I mean, if you look at it and digest it, it's not too bad at all. It's actually
Yeah,
he's reserving it for really really fine things. The fact that you look at it and you can't really tell where he's used his kit bash, that means he's used it effectively. I think
yeah, I agree.
that's what people have to do. And the mistake is that you get hungry for details and you can kit bash, and it's addictive. It's so addictive because I think it's like simple monkey brain. It's like, oh, I've produced something, and it's like it's really cool and detailed in your head, and you think, oh, it took me nothing. It's like like if someone gave you $1,000,000, you'd get high on that feeling of getting $1,000,000. It's kind of like that with a kit bash. You kind of get a little bit high on the fact that you've kind of like you've almost cheated this thing that you hadn't really had to work for, but it was because the technology was in
Yeah.
place, it allowed you to do it. So there's something funny about that. We get it. People get addicted to it and go crazy with it.
I think for me, my rules for Kibash are one, don't ever want to use anybody else's
Yeah.
because like I don't ever want to put stuff in my work that I couldn't do myself. Like I'm buying some things, like I'll buy like a power box that's pre-textured because if you don't believe that I can model a power box, then like, well, that's a problem. But I think, it's plausible that I could model and texture a power box, right? But you think about money, like, why should I go and model that fucking power box or like a ladder? Which, by the way, I'm doing a lot of these things myself.
Yeah.
But certain things, it's like, why? But yeah, when it comes to like things that have to do with your style, like, yeah, I don't like taking these shortcuts too much. And it's something I've wrestled with a lot because I like to do stuff the most painful way for some reason. But I think, yeah, exactly. Like you need to, like, I want to have enough that it's like, I just don't want to do repetitive stuff, like putting it in places where if it's a kit bash or if I spent 3 hours making something similar, like it wouldn't really make a difference, you know? Like because I need a faster turnaround time, like I only have so many hours in a day and I always have modeled stuff from scratch and it's I like it, but it's not
Yeah.
always cost effective.
You
So
should look at a guy called Nika. So Nikazaut. He's Russian, by the way. Tashv.
Nika,
Nika. I've been trying to get him on
here,
artist. Yeah, that Nika. Oh, you haven't got him yet. So what's his last name? Zau. No, not that one. So
okay, just like I'm really slow at names. So Nakka.
Nik, only one K. Yeah, and Zautas.
Daut. Okay, this guy.
Yeah, like he did something. This current thing he did in Blender. I thought you might be interested in that. I was pretty surprised with what he achieved there. I assume it takes him a while.
Interesting too, because it almost looks like really loose, like it's some sculpted stuff, like 3D code or something. Is it really poly modeled?
Mesh machine and box cutter.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so I thought you might find that interesting.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, I'll check this out. I'll buy the scene.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think. Yeah. I really like how he presented some of the shots in this. Like I have this in my thing. I like the DOF, and I like I feel like the design is I'm not a huge fan of the forms, but I like the balance of scale of some of the things.
I think it does take him a long time. This stuff is, I think people think, oh God, he's done it real quick, but I think this is taking fucking forever to do this stuff because I think I mentioned, I talked to him, he's like, yeah, he has a very slow, he's doing things very slow, I think, at the moment. So, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure. His English is not very good, but I'm trying to get him to have a chat. So he's using box cutter and mesh machine. I mean, it's kind of like really opened my eyes to consider using it in such a capacity where I was thinking if I could use it with some of the subdivision modeling and then just cut in whatever you want. I don't know if it would replace a fusion type workflow.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I mean, if I can model stuff like this quickly in Fusion, I would be, or in Blender, I would totally be down. I
Mm.
just feel like I just hate working with polys, you know, like I've done it for so long. I hate dealing with topology and Fusion. It's just like I can model so much
Could
faster.
you do this in Fusion?
I mean, I'd have to do basically the sub D to Fusion workflow to do this. Like
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, maybe I could, but not right now, right? Like
Mm.
if I think that it's possible to reach a level of design in Fusion or really any CAD software where you can do organic forms. But the thing is, it's just like drawing with pen, except like twice as hard
Mm.
because you need to be really forethinking about what that form is going to be, and you can't change it after you're done.
Mm.
And so, I mean, I think, yeah, like you can do it. You can polymodel in Fusion poorly, but I think also just using lofting and, you know, being smart about making Boolean shapes, like you can do some crazy forms, but,
Mm.
um, and the patch tools and all that. But I don't think, you know, it's easy. And so I think it's something that is doable, but it's very difficult skill to acquire.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
I'm curious to how he's done this. I
yeah.
assume he's taken he just took forever. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you see something really intricate and you think that's amazing, and it's not. It's just because um, it's just because someone spent a long time on it. Really, like that's what
Yeah.
that's the it's the hard work aspect type of thing. So
I mean, this thing took me, this is all polymodeled, and this took me quite a long time, especially a long time ago.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
I modeled how like every piece comes together, and I could probably do this in. I don't know if I could do this in Fusion as well though, because every medium gives you like a different result, a different
Yeah,
style,
it does.
you know.
And it does. It's painful how long it takes you, isn't it? It's painful. Like
Yeah,
it's like you can't offer that shit to clients unless they're willing to like, hey, yeah, we'll pay you and we'll do that. It's because look, you don't. I mean, how many clients ask you for like subdivision modeling for guns? I don't think any.
yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't. It's just like, I mean, that other guy, what gave you 2 months for a gun, right?
2 months.
2 months. You spent? Did you spend 2 months doing a gun?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
spent, but it was really like not 2 months of work. It's just 2 months of iterating, you know. Like modeling wise, I can make a gun very, very quickly in Fusion,
yeah, so there
but
was yeah. It is. You're right. It's like the pros and cons of doing it. There's a weird. It's you know what it is. It's like a real nice love hate relationship with subdivision modeling, and the love is the aspect of getting that really unique hard surface shape, but the hate is the struggle having to pull and create topology for that shape, and it kind of like it almost like it's not it's semi enjoyable and semi unenjoyable to do it. And I think and when when you work with fusion, it's kind of mostly that enjoyableness of just doing it, doing the process of it. Like you sitting down with a pen and paper and drawing is a somewhat semi enjoyable. But when you work with, because you're working with topology, and topology is technical, and technical is somewhat the retardation in the flow of like what you do, and you just kind of work away at stuff. Because here, like in Fusion, you just start you just start going to town with a shape, and you just create. You're not having to be technical here, so that's probably what I'm
I
trying to
mean,
say.
you're technical within reason, but
Mm,
like there's a lot of things like it's actually funny. I model a lot of the same way in Fusion. It's like somehow a mix between what I learned in Moe and a mix of poly modeling. Like you have to think about, and I think one of the reasons why a lot of people make super blocky models in Fusion is they don't understand, first of all, plane changes and forms, like how to make good forms. But the second thing is they don't understand how bevels work. So like, for example, I talk about this all the time because people don't get it in poly modeling too, like edge flow. Fusion has edge flow, right? Like if I chain for this, then the edge flow of this line is this way. But if I chain for this, I can completely change that form design.
mm,
And now the edge flow is like this way.
yeah,
And I think this
that
is one of
changed
the
it.
only real technical things. And a lot of people still don't seem to understand that, I think.
That's
So
cool.
I don't. Another cool thing you can do in Fusion that I like is you can do some like let's see if I can make it a bit more extreme. You can make some forms that like cross a lot of planes. Really, why is everything rotated? You can make things that cross. Okay, I need to fix this. Fusion's being dumb. All right, that's weird. All right, whatever. Yeah, so you can like draw off of a plane like this, for example, and then you can extrude this down, and then now your form will like your plane change will change, and it'll be across another form. And like, there's a lot of
I'm not sure what you
yeah,
just
cool
did. I
things.
had a screen lag. So what did you do just then? I
Ah,
think.
okay, let me slow down.
Yeah.
I'm going too fast. How many FPS is it, like roughly, like 5 or
It's
10?
probably. I think when it's in Fusion, it's like terrible. It's probably like 15,
Oh,
maybe 15.
okay. I'll slow down. So yeah, you can just go into like the line tool. I don't know why this is misaligned, like this whole viewport, but whatever. And you can draw a shape on any plane.
Mm.
And then what you can do is you can get some really unique shape ideas by just extruding that down. And then now you have like these weird shapes that you can
So
start to like
you didn't even have to
blend
close
in.
the line.
No,
You don't have to close the line because it's already closed within the topology there. The
yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And the okay, let me show something really quick. So it kind of goes back to something we were talking about earlier. I don't want to jump around too much because my brain
That's
is
all right, man. This is all.
scatterbrained. But the biggest thing I think I've realized lately, like we were talking about making simple designs good. I think something that's really important and that's starting to click for me. I've been doing so much kit bash stuff is like, when you draw with a pencil, right, or a pen, like you can be loose.
Mm,
And I think that's the thing I'm learning the most about making. Like I'm making right now, all my Kibesh stuff is not meant to be seen close up. It's not meant to be like super close. And it's not meant to be super high detailed, crazy high poly. Like it's supposed to be detailed enough that it gives you the feeling, and then like not detailed enough, or yeah, detailed enough it gives you like what you need basically. And
mm,
it's super interesting because I realized with Fusion, like, you know, okay, fuck. How do I present this? All right, first thing. The one thing that I think that's really important, and I'll go into this in a second, is I think a lot of people undervalue negative space. Like
mm,
how important lots of negative space is and the right amounts of it. Like, we talk about big, medium, and large forms, but when you have a silhouette, right, like you have your big shapes, but then those small ones are really important. And I think it's something 2D artists are extremely good at, because they learn to draw negative space and to see negative space. And as a consequence, they also design it very well. And like you can see with a lot of the trees, like how nice all of these negative spaces are. Like they have all the negative spaces behind the trucks and whatever. I think as 3D artists, it's really easy to not focus on that so much. And so you can make a piece like this that's actually just a shit box with some stuff on it, or like, something like this, right? But the only thing that really matters when you're making a lot of these details and a lot of these things that make them work is just purely silhouette, negative space, and scale and value. So like if your value is good, you know, I might just have some inset boxes, but when they're at a distance, right, those are going to read like small little black details.
Mm.
And so like being impressionistic in Fusion, if you're not making close-up stuff too, can be very easy if you just focus on negative space, scale, and value. And yeah, so that's just a random thing. But I realized like this stuff, like, you know, I probably made each one of these pieces in like a few minutes, you know, maybe some of the more complex ones just because of Fusion. Like
Mm.
Fusion sucks with a lot of models, like a large amount. Like anything over 1,000, it starts to get slow as hell. So
What do you mean?
that's the one.
Is it? Is
Hmm.
it? I don't know if it is running slow. Everything seems like it's running slow.
It's fast because I went through and I combined a lot of my objects into single parts.
Okay.
But when you have thousands, it's very slow. But yeah, so I mean, um, yeah, it's kind of unrelated tangent, but just something I was really excited about in art recently is just
Mm.
feeling like the more that I can control this big, medium, and small, and that I can be like make a good design or like something that works with as little as possible, whether it's work or whether it's time spent, you know, like figuring out that ingredient to get that read what I want. So
Mm.
I don't know. I figured out in Fusion like there's quite a few ways to really easily quickly get a nice uh set of details for stuff. Not details, but you know what I mean, like flesh
Yeah.
something out.
Are there
So.
any key things that you would like say like when you start working in Fusion, like key modeling methods or understandings, like tips and tricks for anyone that I guess people who kind of or like even just things that you want to make people aware of when they're using it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is it's how I polymodel too, but be aware of the relationships between all of your parts. So like for example, let me pull up a gun or something. Renders. Oh shit, that almost did not click the right folder. All right, yeah. So when I was working on like this design, for example, the main thing that I always think about is like the relationship between everything. So this piece right here, let me make this brighter. This right here and this area were some of the most important areas because it's where this piece connects, like where all of the parts of a design are connecting. I always feel like that's where you need to put your time, and that's why I work so iteratively because I usually block stuff out, and I'll show it really quick. Like I block stuff out very very loosely. So
Those
let's
wings
just
remind me of what I did for Horizon.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I did the wings like that on some creature.
the one of the bird guys.
Yeah. What
I
is
really like the flathead guy.
the flathead guy? Was it on Horizon?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the
The long neck, tall neck.
Oh yeah, that was the last design I did for them.
That
Last
one's
one.
amazing. Dude,
Yeah.
those feet, when I saw those toes moving, that made me so happy.
Yeah, when I made one of the foot, I was like, this should look good if I duplicate it a lot. Like, yeah. Like,
I
because
mean, I
I
like
put
the
so much
butt.
work into it. Hey. Yeah, like I was like, oh, I got to get the one foot. If the one foot looks good, it should look good duplicated because that's the rule. When you duplicate details, if you can get one foot or one object to look good and you duplicate it, there's something in your brain that goes, that's even better now. Like this, like it's like seeing two hot twins. I don't know. There's two of them. I don't
It's
know.
even better now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But
Here, yeah.
what was this for? Like, are you just like fucking around with things, like making like this is like an odd thing to see done in Fusion, that creature thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I had made quite a few level designs, like large level designs.
Yeah.
And so basically, I I don't know what I want to say, but basically I have things that I want to pursue, like making an IP, so to
Mm.
speak. I don't really want to talk about it
So,
too much because it's not good to talk about stuff unless you're actively
yeah.
have something to show. But yes, this is like a human is like this small, like smaller than this, and it's like basically they walk on a planet and there's a lot of them, and you can see over here this is like a little building, and they're basically terraforming to a degree. It's a little bit different than that, but basically it's like some sort of terraforming machine, and they walk on a planet. And I really want to sell the story of this planet with these guys. And so what that you'll see is like, imagine there's like barren dust and dirt ahead of them, and then behind them like plants are starting to grow. And
Mm.
so like as they walk, like maybe there's 50 of them right in a row walking across a barren planet, the plants eventually start to grow together, as they get farther away from the machine. So yeah, this is a design I want to finish, and it's for a story that I
It's
didn't
cool.
finish telling. So,
Mm.
but I wanted to talk really quick about just like the biggest thing in Fusion in general, like build up your stuff like you would in a sculpt, right? Like block out. And
Mm.
a lot of people, I don't swear to God, I don't care if they've been in the industry like 50 years. So many people just do not respect the blockout stage, and they just go right into the details. And I don't understand why, but in the end, like if you focus on your forms before you add any bevels, like life is 10,000 times easier. And
Yeah.
I see constantly people beveling right away, and it drives me crazy.
It's tempting. Makes it look nice.
I mean, how many high poly blobby like ZBrush sculpts have you seen in your time? I bet it's a lot.
Blobby, where they don't refine. You mean they don't refine?
They just go straight into the highest subdiv, and they're
Oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I mean,
going all in.
yeah. It's people dive into details straight away, and it's just like you have a disproportionate balance in what you see. You have to. It's that process. You need to go through it. Otherwise, if you don't, I mean, it's like I mean, look, you get those painters, right? You ever seen the painters and like they paint super detailed in one corner and they finish the fucking painting? It's all in proportion and it's all like a magic. But that's a different.
Yeah,
I think that's a different story. That's copying. They literally have it. The way they're perceiving it in their brain is like they've downloaded the image and they're just they're like literally like a printer. That's what I think. And art is not printing unless you're making it like a gun copy, like a from actual picture, then it will be fine. I think people maybe perhaps do that, and yeah, I agree with you. That it's totally something that people should be doing is building
you,
up
you know,
forms.
it's interesting too what you're saying about the about people who start at the corner, because I mean, I don't do that, but I always tell my students like, oh, do this, like don't go too far into detail. And then, but I'm doing it because
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, but I have a lot of experience, right?
Mm.
And one thing that's really interesting for me, and I was aware of this, but I didn't realize how profoundly important it was until recently, was like the reason why I think drawing is so crucial is because I feel like maybe like I hate saying things that sound too cocky, but like I've reached a certain level of ability, and I don't think it's nowhere near good enough or whatever. I'm not happy with it. But point is, I think it outweighs greatly my experience in the variety of things I've designed, and also the variety of things that I can subconsciously call upon to really make me feel like a true professional, like like a true confident professional artist. So for example, like I started drawing tanks and planes a lot. Actually, sorry, let me backtrack. So I sculpt, when I sculpt, I just usually do skull sculpt studies because I think skulls are a great way for understanding form
Mm.
and for being able to improve your form. And as a result, when I go to sculpt for fun, I just start sculpting something based on the shape of a skull. subconsciously, because my brain is so familiar with this idea, just like you could probably just casually sculpt a character, right?
Mm.
And I feel like drawing has been the greatest thing to boost that ability because, you know, you're even if you're thinking about what you're designing, you're subconsciously pulling from so many things, like things that you like, but you don't realize, maybe your childhood toys that you like, maybe some colors you liked as a kid, maybe like some cool art piece Vitaly made, like you have this form idea in your head from it or whatever. But when you can draw, like let's say you sit down and you draw like 50 F-16s, you know, eventually you just draw F-16. You're not thinking about it. Same thing
Mm.
with tanks. And like, at least for me, it was important and probably an obvious thing, but I started drawing a lot of tanks and like, oh shit, now if I need to make a tank, I can design a tank without thinking. Like,
Mm.
or I don't feel like out of my comfort zone, you know?
Mm.
So anyway, I, yeah.
Yeah, look, that comfort zone is an odd. I mean, when I find myself, I'm always, I could easily be in my comfort zone, but I tend to do things out of my comfort zone. So like, when I do new characters, there's something different about the character in that, not all the time, but I'll try and do something. I try not to repeat something again and again because I know that, you know, once you've worked on it, you've built that skill and pushing yourself out of the comfort zone. So like I'm working on like a cockpit for a it's like a mech, and it's somewhat like out of my comfort zone because it's like environmental set piece stuff, and it's like got, you know, it's got like furniture design in it, and it's got a bunch of different things that, you know, it's not even character driven. So um, it's these here and these things here and there push you. I try and you try and do that thing. You're in the comfort zone, but then you're out of the comfort zone also, which is always an interesting one to live in. It's where the growth happens. It's where that, I think people don't realize, it's like um, if everything is always comfortable, you become unhappy. Is that,
Yeah, I can't
yeah?
stand it to be honest. Like I'm actually maybe even a bit extreme. Like I don't like living in the same place for too long.
Mm.
Like I don't know, I always like to see something new or whatever. And yeah, it's funny, like to be honest, I think a lot of the time I'm very unhappy in art, but mostly just because, you know, I'm doing a lot of the same stuff, right? And all of the times, okay, there's two things. One of them is something you brought up earlier, but I get really unhappy a lot of time because it's like I'm doing the same thing, you know, like guns. Yeah, sure, I can challenge myself. I can challenge myself doing anything because if you do anything really well, it's, you know, it's a challenge.
Mm.
But or try to do something very well, I should say. But I think you know, if it's not drastically outside of your comfort zone, it just gets monotonous as hell. And that's actually something I hated about being an environment artist and sometimes also being a concept artist because you're doing a lot of repetitive stuff. Like what, you're a 3D artist, so okay, texture, like if you're an
Mm.
environment artist, you texture, you model,
Mm.
you UV and design. Okay, that's it. Like I also want to do effects work. Like I want to maybe learn how to animate, you know, whatever, stuff like this. And I think in a way it like keeps that progression going, you know,
Mm.
becoming better because you're following your passion or whatever. And it's super easy to
Mm.
lock yourself into like a box where, you know, you want to be consistent and you want to grow, but you also, yeah, you don't want to take like too many risks.
Yeah, taking too many risks, you end up, you know, the jack of all trades, master of none type of thing.
Yeah.
And so, as a freelancer, you know, it's that question: how the fuck do you make yourself attractive to a client, especially with, you know, all the other people doing it? You have to be a master of one, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So, but we live in that thing of like, hey, can you know, like, say if someone come up to you and go, can you do me a character, right, with some hard surface parts on it? And the thing is, hey, you do hard surface, you can do that. And it's like maybe because since you've been doing so many guns, you wouldn't be as well versed in it. So then you end up having to. I think people, or they go, we need a game. It has to be game ready also. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not doing that thing day to day. And I think as freelancers, we kind of get asked for stuff like that. And I think, I don't know, would you say that's fair as a freelancer, or do you
I
think?
mean, I do high polys for games sometimes.
Mm,
And I think it's one good thing that you can have that versatility as a freelancer to kind of pick and choose what you want. But yeah, I agree. Like there's definitely a market for generalists. Absolutely.
mm,
They're very valuable, but I think that if you want to be a valuable generalist, you still need to have one skill that's above like a good majority of other people's, like
mm,
you're an environment artist and you're doing sci-fi stuff. Like I still want you to understand design and have like a voice in it, that
mm.
makes you unique. But uh is it fair? Like, do you mean as far as being asked to do all the extra work or
Yeah, like let's say if someone makes a character and they're a character artist and they get told, you know, I always find it odd that sometimes doing the low poly and the texturing work that ties into the rendering engine side of things and look development, and they get stuck doing those types of things. At times, it's like it's easier just to get because kind of what you're doing here, you're just modeling stuff at the end of the day, and
yeah.
it's kind of like the same. It's almost like the same principle. If someone was to light and render this, it would make it look different. And sometimes I feel like when they do ask for those things, they don't necessarily need them because they have their own pipeline for doing those things. Sometimes, only sometimes though.
Yeah.
It's like all these other skills on top that you've. I just find the whole. I do find the whole high poly and game poly stuff. I guess I find it more. It seems like that low poly stuff seems like it's an in-house thing. You got to get an animator in there, and they have to tell like what parts need to be with a certain topology, and those things tie into the in-house type of workflow. That's what I think. Sometimes people get pegged with doing it, and sometimes necessarily it could be a waste of their time at times. So
I mean, I've personally never done freelance where I did the low poly. That's why
mm,
I tell people like I'm not doing the low poly. That's just it. Like I'm not gonna do a low poly.
yeah,
Um, there was a few situations where I would, but yeah, generally I think it's just also a waste of their time. Like, listen, I can do a low poly, but I'm not like I haven't done game art in I don't know 5 years. Like
yeah.
I'm not good. I'm not the guy you want for this. I can do it, but
And things you just don't want to do it. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like
yeah, fuck that.
as freelancers, sometimes you get people trying to get extras out of you. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like. Just because it feels like, oh, you should do this and then you should do the rest of it. You feel like sometimes they try and ask you for things like that. And that's
I
why I
mean,
try and, yeah.
if they're still paying, it's fine, like as long as I want to do it. Like if they ask me, "Oh, can you render the concept?" Like, yeah, of course. I would
Mm,
love to, like why not? Especially if I can put it in my portfolio. Like that's
yeah.
actually the one thing I wanted to talk about because we're talking about clients a lot. A lot of people don't know how to spot bad clients. Like
Mm,
I find that in the first 2 or 3 emails, you can almost always tell if a client is going to be shitty to work with.
yeah. Yeah.
At least most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think if you have good clients, you'll never get into situations where people are trying to fuck you over because you like, you also should be a good freelancer. A lot of people, it's really crazy. Like I had a few situations where like I knew an artist, I knew them personally, I was friends with them, good friends with them, like them a lot, good artist. But then you like get them in a situation with a client and you like recommend them and they just don't know how to do any of like the managing. Like okay, here's like when I have a client, right, like I say, okay, this is how I usually work. Like does this workflow work for you? Like this is how I like to do stuff so that we don't waste time, so that
Mm,
we agree on stuff and we have clear sign off every step of the way. And like some people literally don't understand how to work with clients, like how to guide them either. And So like they might be a really good artist and they just completely fail in general, you know, like they don't know how to work with people and get things going correctly in a nice orderly way. So
Yeah, they're not saying. Well, when clients contact me, I'm like, so what do you need? Like, do you want me to finish it to this level? And I give them examples that, I can do it to this level. This will take a minute. So like you give them different guidelines and you go, do you need it like this? And so they're ready for it. And you go, look, I'm going to start with this. The first phase will look rough and then it will start looking like this. And so that's what you just guide it. And you give the estimates and you got to hold their hand because they're giving you money. So,
yeah, absolutely.
and another thing is like, there's a certain way of pricing things. Like, do you ask for 50% upfront, or if it's a big company, you trust them enough to pay you?
Yeah, so to be honest, actually, I've never had a situation where somebody didn't pay me. Actually, I did, and I almost want to name that person because I don't
Oh,
like them, but I
oh,
don't think I will.
is it a
I
big
don't know.
company?
No, it was a specific person,
Okay.
and they run a game school company. And let's say if you know where my tutorials are from, like say a few years ago, you'll know what I'm talking about. So
Okay.
they contractually fucked me over.
So they gave.
But in general,
Did they give you the contract, or you gave them a contract?
oh, they gave me a contract, and
They still fucked you over.
I read it. But here's the thing: they were so sneaky about the wording. Like, I'm not going to go pay for a lawyer. Like most of the time, I
Yeah.
work with good people, and this was actually one of my first freelances I ever did. It was just teaching, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so this guy basically he said like, oh yeah, you'll get 35% or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 30% or something of the sales.
Mm.
And then I'm like counting the money I got from that, which was not a lot, and it was 15%, right? So I did some math, and he's like, "Oh well, like it says like after like profits, and profits are like after I like hire a marketing guy and like all of this stuff." And then I'm like, "That's fucking bullshit." Like I started asking him like questions like, "Are you affiliate of your own company?" Like all this stuff, and he wants me to sign an NDA to talk about finances with him. Like, fuck you,
Yeah.
man. Like, you're screwing me over. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I've never had a bad experience. Like, all my clients always pay. Um, and I've liked working with every single one. And I think it's just because I'm very good at telling if someone's going to be horrible to work with,
Yeah.
and I think the only bad situations I've had were my fault because I was new. Like
Mm.
when I was first starting out freelancing, I accidentally booked too much work and fucked it up with one of my clients, like, but it happens, right? You're still learning. So,
Do you if you work with a smaller client, do you take 50% upfront, like a smaller client that you never worked with?
uh, once,
Yeah. Oh, so
once,
even with small clients, you just go and do it. And you're not apprehensive about it.
yeah, maybe I'll get burned one day, but
Mm.
I'm this almost sounds like an invitation to come fuck me over, but I'm like I'm a very trusting person, and I also think I'm good at telling if someone is sketchy. I mean, I'm not perfect, but like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm good at reading vibes from people, and usually I'm dealing with bigger name companies most of the time.
Mm.
And the small ones are usually nice people who just are like, "Oh, I like your work, like let's work together on something." It's not, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
so.
I think I've only been burnt once.
Yeah,
So,
can
yeah.
you
It was
tell?
I think I did a for Dishonored, the first Dishonored game. I did for some outsourcing. It was a guy just for middleman crap, and um, I did a couple heads in a certain style, the painterly style, and I think like he was meant to pay me for two heads, and I did one. Well, no, he paid me for one of them, and he's like, "Oh, well, you didn't do the other one like so you know how they just try and word things and try and get it around you." You're like, yeah, but I still did two. You know what I mean? It's like they try and it's just that misplaced. It's like misplaced. It's on your end type of thing. You know, they try and push things onto you, and I mean, it's because it's like the whole thing of with those outsourcing companies where they're not really doing any work except relaying the work to you. So they're trying to
Yeah.
get work to cheaper rate. And look, I think anyone can fucking wheel and deal. It's like anyone can. We're all, as human beings, we're all natural salesmen if you allow that part of you to come out of you. I think if you and you're open and you're not shy and stuff like that. So I think when people are like exploitive of other artists, where other artists, you know, it's like you were saying before, other artists are terrible at being salesmen. They are, because the antisocialness around the work, I believe, causes a lack of social awareness where how, you know, like if you ever go to like, have you ever met like a car salesman before? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
they're a car salesman, right? Like, you know, and oftentimes when you're working away and you're doing this job in your house or where you're in a studio behind this antisocial computer, you're not going to develop certain social cues of reading people. And even in an email, it is possible to read someone's intentions. Like you were saying, you can tell within the first 2 or 3 emails of how they like word things. And I always do this. I always go, okay, so what's the project? Would you like to have a Zoom chat? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
straight to it, face-to-face video. And with that, you can suss out a lot, because I'm like, look, if I have a 10-minute chat with you, I can sort out the bullshit from the if you are giving me any bullshit, because you can read body language and just understand if people aren't honest. Because it's like, I'm not sure if you know, but I can't remember this. So this guy, I think he had like polio, right? And he got completely frozen in his body. I can't remember his name. I heard the story today, and completely frozen. And he couldn't even, all he could do is move his eyes and see. Polio completely disabled him. And what happened is he ended up learning human emotions, like through just looking at people. And he could tell people, he to the point where he could almost be a mind reader of um, people's observations. And so that's why it's really important if you can, because you can tell a lot just from people's observations. And like if you do that, you're saying that you can tell within those emails. But I would say the extra step, like even for you, I know you do. You ever use a camera?
Uh, yeah, only when I'm on my laptop though.
Yeah, like uh, that's a good trick also for people to use. Is to use a camera and talk to your clients, because you can see. Like I had one person contact me, and they, like, I thought it was going to be something like, they made it all sound out serious, and like, I never do this stuff, and they asked me to do like some Photoshop decal alpha on top of some box branding, and I was like, what? Like,
What?
and I'm
That's
like,
so weird.
and he's like, yeah, and I was like, all right, and I just had to like, yeah, act interested, and just like, oh. But if I didn't like have the video chat, I probably would have fucked around over like 4 or 5 emails trying to suss out what they need. So just,
Yeah.
you know, just get it done, and it will save you so much time doing the video chat stuff. That's for people.
I usually do
Yeah.
it mostly when it's like a very serious client, but when it's
Mm.
like the smaller ones and they just like have something simple, I think it also depends like what the thing is. But yeah, I think too though, a lot of the shitty clients also have no idea like how like they're not professional either, you know? I don't know. I've
Mm.
noticed that like they don't seem like they know what they're doing really, or like how to
No,
I don't know. Yeah,
they,
like
they're new to it. Essentially, really new to it.
yeah, they're just used to fucking people over or something.
Oh,
I
you
don't know.
reckon? Well,
Yeah.
paying them like $50 a week.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah. Yeah, guys, don't get paid $50 a week. Don't even do that for a day rate. That's ridiculous. Like, I hope
Yeah. I
people
mean,
people start.
200 is like bare minimum student pay. Like if
Mm,
you're a student and it's your first thing and you literally don't know anything, like 200 a day is like very low. But
mm,
I think okay if you're like a bad student. If you're like a average person, 300 a day is like very low,
mm,
but like kind of like that's a Europe rate right there.
mm.
And then yeah, like you already basically talked about all the same stuff. Like yeah,
So was it
don't
you?
work for
You
that
think I was
really.
okay with those pricings?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I mean, I've heard pretty much the same things from like some of the other more experienced people I've talked to. Like pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah, like going like I would say, once you are in like the 800 is a pretty typical day rate. Like, that means you're like in the upper tier of the industry.
Mm,
And then I would say like, if you're starting out, especially in concept, like 550 is like a nice starting rate, I think. I don't know.
mm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then
Well, I hope
yeah.
it does change because it makes it easier for everyone, and that just makes it healthier. It makes it healthy. It's already unhealthy industry in a weird way. Would you say it's a kind of unhealthy industry that we're in a weird way, a
Dude,
little?
I think it's a horribly unhealthy industry. I mean, like the antisocial is one thing about it, but I think also I don't want to say anything too inflammatory because of this exact reason. I think a lot of people in our industry are very fragile. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but like a lot of people, I think, especially these people who are like truly just artists, like they're bad at selling themselves. They just want to make art. Like they kind of have to add to a whole other side of their personality, like all of these other skills that I don't even think they wanted to develop, like being good at negotiating, like learning how to be aggressive in a professional manner and being kind, like not being aggressive, but like standing up for yourself,
Mm.
and I think a lot of these things in our industry, which is, an industry about making stuff and whatever, like people are very, very soft about certain things. I don't know. And I think because of it, like, we talk about like the unhealthy side of things. Like there's a lot of very unhealthy people in our industry who just kind of sit all day.
Mm.
They don't uh yeah, like they don't take care of themselves. Not to say that that's everybody. There's lots of people who do, but
Mm.
yeah, I think I would say it's an unhealthy industry, and also unhealthy in the fact that you have to work so fucking hard to stand out in this industry that people kind of will have to give up a lot of things in life for the time just so that they can be better at moving a few polys, and it's I think that it also is unhealthy. Like, we're talking about tools, right? Like, is it healthy to need to work 10,000 hours to be good at poly modeling? Like, why should the tools be that shit? Like, I can
Mm.
understand the art rules of poly modeling. Like 10,000 hours to be good at concepting, or like not concepting, but like composition or understanding value, like being a master at that. But
Mm.
like, then you have to add all of this other bullshit on top. And then people, if you want to be in that top tier, like you have to put real time in.
Yeah,
So
like proper real time. Like it's almost like a burning. It's like a burning amount of time, like where you like the grindiness of grinding, and then you get the reward of being good at it. Then you do it.
and then and then you're still not good enough. you know?
Well, I mean, this is probably why you want to work on your own IP. I've been wanting to work on my own IP and do my own little thing also because I think that's ultimately where you don't have to, well, you still have to work even harder. So, but you get to work on something different, I guess. Because if you had to make your own IP and own game, you have to work even harder on it to make your own game, like to make that work.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's not like you're only competing with yourself, kind of, in a weird way, because you want to make that work. So,
Yeah.
mm,
And I think it's also it's not just like that's not the only thing too. It's like, you know, we can only burn for so long, and it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get old and give up and like lose this fire. Of course not. But
Mm.
I think like I want to burn for other things too in my life too, you know, and it's art, like I definitely want to get way better at it and I want to be much better, but I don't want to be, you know, 50 years old and still being like, okay, am I good enough to keep up with like all of these 20-year-old kids? Like I want to slowly, you know, build a sustainable lifestyle that's not necessarily about the direct amount of money I make. Like I want to build something that can make more money, you know.
Mm.
So I think that's also important.
Yeah, it's thinking about like, I guess how the hell do you do that in this industry, right? It's by making your own IP. There's not many ways else you could do product design where you can sell products, like a certain product.
Yep.
Um, it's hard. It's hard to figure out what you can do, right? It really is. Because like you're saying, you don't want to be pushing polys around at 50 for somebody. I kind of you don't want to. Like you want to be kind of finishing up with those types of things where you're in a different type of position. So yeah, can you imagine doing this at 50?
Dude, I don't even know. I
Still
don't think
using
so.
still using
Dude,
Fusion at 50?
if we still have these tools when I'm 50 in 30 years, fuck this shit. Fuck everybody who makes these tools. I'm done.
You would print one of your guns and shoot yourself.
Oh, fuck, I have to be my dream, man. I would love to. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's yeah, basically what you said, products or making a game or like something else. And schools aren't really profitable. I mean,
Mm.
like somebody told me once, the most they ever make from tutorials is 15K, like as a school. And I can kind of verify that that's somewhat true. Like all the tutorials I've made, the most I ever made was like 23K off of one. And by the way, Gumroad is the best thing on earth. So
Yeah.
that passive income, but
How long did it take you to get to 23K?
like a year and a half. I think the biggest driving thing is though too, like I have two tutorials that sold extremely well, and it's more based on the niche that the tutorials were covering, right? So it's always like finding that niche you can market in.
Mm.
So my other tutorials did not do nearly as good because they're like, you know, key shot lighting, no one cares, but people don't have a consistent place to like learn about, you know, why evenness is bad in your design or like uh yeah, fusion for design and like design theory mixed with fusion. Like there's not a lot of places for that. So I think the other one I did was tiling textures. There was not any good tiling texture tutorials for games. So
Mm.
yeah, that one also did very well. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to come up with subjects for tutorials. I guess someone has people have been asking me for design tutorials. I have to figure out how to break down my designs. I guess you know how thing is I have instinctual design principles that I haven't broken down even for myself, but I've broken down partial instinctual stuff in the tutorials, but I haven't broken it down in the actual like an actual tutorial, and I wouldn't know quite how to go about doing that.
yeah, I mean that's actually one thing, and I don't mean anything by it. I noticed that yeah, like there's a lot of people who are very instinctual
Mm,
when it comes to explaining design, and I feel like you're that way, and it's interesting because I haven't watched all of your tutorials. I watched a few, and I definitely learned quite a few things. Like I and you even brought it up, like how you zoom out all the time.
mm,
I realized how much you do it, and it's a great habit. And I started trying
mm,
to do this as well because you know, even though I did before, because I'd always get you know caught in details, I trying to do it more and more now. But
mm,
yeah, I think the biggest thing that's really helpful for this is just like when I started learning design, at least my teacher was I'll just plug my teacher. I think he's one of the greatest people I ever met in my entire life, Jihoon Kim, and he's an amazing designer, but he's an amazing explainer. Even though his English is not that great, we would talk for like hundreds of hours about design and like trying to understand like what makes things look good. And he was so good at explaining stuff and talking about how it like ties to how humans perceive the world and process information. And so like from the very beginning, I've always been describing why I feel the way I do about stuff. And I feel like when you can bring those things into words, that's like when you can really easily reproduce it, you know, like you clearly know what you're doing, like you know the design things that are important to you and you're able to reproduce them consistently. But I think, yeah, teaching, like I was teaching people even when I didn't know shit, like when I was a fucking idiot, which I probably still am, but you know,
We're always
and
idiots.
it, yeah, exactly. We're always idiots, but like if you're always trying to explain somebody why you think something is the way it is, like you're going to get good at explaining it. Like I said earlier, like my friend said, he said, yeah, if you can't explain something simply, then you probably don't know it as well as you think. And I started to realize like, shit, there's a lot of stuff I can't explain simple enough, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Teaching you makes you a better artist, as weird as that sounds. I think it does. It does make you have to be observant of the things that are actually important. And so then you break it down even more. Like I didn't realize how much I zoomed out until I had to sit there and explain I zoom out because I'm like watching my videos and doing the voiceover. I'm zooming out a lot here. Like I didn't realize until I'm doing it. And then I started doing it even more. Like I started,
really?
yeah, I started doing it even more. So the things that I realized I started doing is like I just cranked it up even more, like whatever I did. So like teaching has made me a better artist, and it's actually made me even more reserved for doing details now. You know how that's something for you that you do a lot of details. Like I used to do a shit ton of details, and I'm like even me maybe I'll do too many details, and like I'm gonna like reserve. You know how you see really like really well done design work and it looks really nice to look at. So that stuff I
Yeah.
really want to. I want to be able to pull. I want to see how much I can get away with not obsessing about details and focusing on form because I think right now we feel I think we're like as a whole community we're vibrating in detail for what we're doing for hard surface stuff anyway. It's like
Yeah.
we're all like really positively charged, and I think it's like like the 90s when they had terrible fashion, and then we went through
Yeah.
phases, and I think we kind of had go through similar phases with art. There's certain Renaissance time periods in life where people did go through a lot of like in doing drawings and stuff like that. People would I can't remember the name for it, called Verhovens or um, something with a V, and they used to draw these really intricate drawings, and there used to be so much detail to them, and it used to be a form of art that everyone used to do. And I think we oftentimes can do similar things with the general expression of because I think we're all connected as human. We are all connected as human beings, right? It's like when the COVID thing hit, we all kind of went into a lull and a depression, and then we're going through like the same. We're all connected, even though we're not a part of each other. It's like we all have. There's a universal energy in the world. So I don't know if you believe in that, but I believe in that anyway. And I
I
think
think so.
we all kind of give off a certain vibe. I think we're in a funny time for sure, where we're in this like I think with manufacturing. I think manufacturing is becoming um, you see more elegance in design in manufacturing now, and it's
Yeah.
I think we're seeing that in cars. Like cars are looking better now. Like cars were looking a bit shit before, and now we're kind of going back into making things look a bit more elegant. I think we got obsessed with certain looks, and I don't know. Like there's always like the bad era and then the good era. I'm not sure what you think
I,
about that.
I think it's a few things. Like I think a huge, at least this is how I always saw it and why I'm also do a lot of details sometimes. And I kind of lean towards that is first of all, like when it comes to being able to market yourself as an artist, I think that one of the things, unfortunately, is that, I always saw basically, even when I was just starting out and, total garbage, not that anything's changed, but
That counts.
like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think is consistent is basically you only have a few ways to sell yourself. And especially like when I started doing 3D, like if you looked at before ArtStation, like the typical stuff that was like online, it wasn't that detailed, and people were struggling with normal maps. People were struggling with like doing very simple stuff, which today it's like, the quality of art has jumped so insane
Mm.
compared to before. Like,
Mm.
and so I think the thing is, detail is one of the ways to sell yourself because it
Mm.
shows technical skill, right? Or at least that's what people perceive it to mean. People see
Yeah.
detail and they think, wow, how did he do it?
Mm.
And so it's like, it's kind of a cheap way too to generate like hype or
Yeah.
get some attention, And so it's like, it's literally a sales point to a degree because it's one of the things. Like if you show someone else like, yeah, I can model something more crazy than you, like it raises your value, right, to
Mm.
people.
Yeah.
So but I do agree with you, and I think like this manufacturing thing, it's a mix between like education and competition and the internet. Like people see good art more than they ever have before, and so
Mm.
the quality of art, I think, is going up, and the accessibility of getting into these industries is almost the easiest thing. Like you want to get into an industry, you just go online, Google some programs, and now you're an artist, like
Mm.
making stuff. And so that mixed with, new manufacturing technologies. But I think, yeah, you're right. And it's something that I really love about all these other designers. Like when you look at ArtStation, it's really like some teenagers like fantasies, like, oh fuck, I love like sick mechs, and like what if the samurai was like chopping off this robot's head? Like that's fucking metal, dude. Like that's literally
Yeah.
ArtStation.
Yeah.
It's and I do this shit too. I'm making dumb fucking robots with big guns, whatever. But it's it's actually kind of ridiculous when you really think about it. And that's why I have so much respect for all of these other types of artists because
Mm.
yeah, it's like I don't know, it's something else to it, like that simplicity and that
Yeah.
making real things and understanding how materials work in the real world, why you should use them, and then trying to put your art vision in with all of this crazy restraints that we don't have, So
Yeah. I often think I want to do product design in some form, but I wouldn't know what to do for product design. That's the problem. I've been trying to think of something new.
and
Yeah.
me too, man. And I feel like the problem I have with product design and the problem with it is like there's some quick ways to make money in the world, but I
Mm.
don't necessarily feel good doing them. Like I only want to do something with passion, enough passion. Like, listen, I want to make money sometimes, right? Like it's not like a non-consequence, but as long as I have enough passion in something to do my best and I make the money, like that's important. But there's like all these toy companies, right? Like I don't remember, there's this one toy called Pillow Pets, and it was a pillow that you flip it inside out and it turns into a pet. And that guy became fucking rich, millions and millions of dollars. But now all this shit is in the garbage, like in some garbage can in who knows where in the middle of the ocean. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. So like if I make something, and I'm sure for you too, like it needs to be something that's like worth making, not just some cash
Yeah.
grab, I guess.
It's there's a certain I don't know, would you call it karma or thing around it? People who make money easily, there's a certain energy around it from dumb things. Because like there are some dumb things that make money. I mean, um,
Definitely.
there's some things where maybe it's like what happens. I think oftentimes if you make money too easily from something, or if you make money from a dumb idea, I think the fact that maybe there's a subconscious thing of like, wow, I made a, let's say if you made a really dumb song and it made $10 million, like it's a dumb song, it's a really dumb song, and anyone could do it, but you were like smart enough to do it at a certain period in time where you could cash in, right? I wonder how
Hmm.
that would go on with the psychology that you've been given. It's like winning the lotto. People who win the lotto, right? They often blow the money. It's like, you hear that?
And people make hit songs. They
Yeah,
blow that too.
and they blow that. It's like actors who get paid so much money to be in a role when they're super young, and that kind of like maybe you don't actually deserve. Maybe you don't deserve $10 million at the age of 10. I mean, come on, like there's an idea around it. Maybe you don't. Maybe that, because money is a really really weird. It's like an artificial. It is completely artificial, and it's a big psychological disruptance to the energy that people have. It makes people greedy. It turns people evil. Like if you took money away, the world would be a completely different place. And
Also, it can give
yeah,
you a completely different view of yourself from what's reality.
yeah,
You know, like you can literally think, oh, I have money. I'm like, I'm this person. Like you kind of identify yourself by this thing that you have,
mm.
you know.
It changes the reality that you sit in. It becomes skewed to you because you have an allocation of money, and it can buy you a certain form of artificial happiness. Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think money can buy experiences. That's about it.
And they're always fleeting.
Yeah.
It's always fleeting. It's like as soon as you pursue something that is an emotional, a financial gain for a no, not financial, emotional reward, it's always fleeting. It will never last, and that's like it's depressing in its own right. Weirdly enough, so.
Yeah.
Mm. All right, man.
Money is
I
weird.
think this. How long have we been talking for? I think we've been
A
talking.
long time.
I think it's probably going over the thing. So I'll end the artist spotlight interview here.
All right. I have to go to the bathroom so bad.
I hope you guys got something out of this. And until next time, guys, I hope you all enjoy this and like and subscribe if you want more of this. So, all right, later, guys.
Yeah.